What if every memory you have is fake and your life began only 5 minutes ago? You remember your childhood home, your favorite teacher in third grade, that time you fell off a bike when you were 12. You think you remember yesterday's dinner or that movie you saw last week. But suppose none of that happened. Suppose all of it, every bit, is just a set of preloaded memories planted in your mind when your life began 5 minutes ago. Right now, you feel like you've lived for years. That feeling comes from memory. If you take away memory, what's left of that long life? You still have a body. You still speak a language. You might have a job, a house, a list of things to do. But those things depend on memories too. You know how to drive a car because you remember how. You know your best friend because you remember all the times you've spent together. You know who you are because of stories you've told yourself about your past. But those stories might not be real. Your whole sense of self might come from data written into your brain like a file loaded onto a hard drive. If that's true, then you're only 5 minutes old. Say you're sitting at your kitchen table. There's a cup of coffee in front of you. You remember making it. You remember filling the kettle, waiting for it to boil, pouring the water, stirring. You remember tasting it. But how do you know you didn't just come into existence with all those memories already in place? The cup of coffee might still be warm, the spoon might still be in it. But that's just more data, evidence that could have been planted. You remember the sensation of waking up this morning. That might have been part of the package deal too. There's a name for this kind of thought experiment. It's called last Thursdayism. It suggests that the universe could have been created last Thursday, or 5 minutes ago, or 1 second ago, and we wouldn't be able to tell. Any evidence we might use to say otherwise, photos, documents, people, emotions, could have come into existence right then, fully formed, fully believable. This isn't just about time travel or science fiction. It's about how we trust the world. More than that, it's about how we trust our minds. You think your memories prove that you were alive before this moment. But memories can be wrong. You've had dreams that felt real. You've remembered things one way, only to find out they happened differently. If small memories can be false, why not all of them? Suppose you're in a hospital bed. A doctor tells you you've had a head injury. You've lost your memory. You believe her. You look around and see machines, charts, staff. They all match her story. But what if the truth isn't that you lost your memory? What if it's that your memory just started? What if 5 minutes ago your consciousness blinked on, already filled with images and facts and names? Think about people with amnesia. They lose parts of their past, but they still feel like themselves. Or do they? Without the stories, how do they know who they are? Some start new lives with new names. They don't get the old stories back. They make new ones. That shows how identity ties to memory. Take the memories away, and the person changes. This idea also makes us question the way we think about time. We treat time as a line, always moving forward, always building on what came before. But if all we have is this moment, and all proof of the past is stored in our heads, then time becomes something we assume, not something we know. People often say trust your gut, but your gut, your instincts, your habits, they're all based on past experience. And if your past isn't real, then neither is your gut. That's a hard thing to face. It makes your whole world shaky. It makes everything feel like it could collapse. But maybe it doesn't have to be that way. You still feel things, you still think, you still act. Even if you just began 5 minutes ago, you're here now. You can touch the table, you can sip the coffee, you can look out the window and see clouds. Those things don't depend on memory. They just are. They're happening in real time. So maybe memory isn't the anchor we thought it was. Maybe what matters is attention, being here, now, and noticing what's in front of us. Say you meet a friend for lunch. You talk, you laugh, you catch up. All through the meal, you feel close. You feel like you've shared something. But suppose all that closeness came from memories that formed 5 minutes ago. Suppose you never really met before today. Would that change how the meal feels? Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe the connection you feel is real in the moment, even if the backstory isn't. Now think about history. Books, films, museums, they all build a timeline. You believe that timeline because you've been taught it. You've seen the artifacts. But what if those artifacts came into being 5 minutes ago, too? You might think that's impossible. Too much has happened. There are too many records. But again, that's just more memory, more evidence, more assumptions. There's a parallel here with computer simulations. If someone programmed a simulation to start now, it could include digital records of the past. A character in the simulation could find a photo, read a news article, dig up a fossil, but all those things would just be files. The character would never know if the past they described was real or just part of the code. Maybe that's how our world works. Maybe it's a kind of simulation, and we're loaded in with files, memories, language, knowledge. Maybe we woke up 5 minutes ago, already running, already believing. It wouldn't feel any different than living a full life. That's what makes the thought so slippery. It doesn't break the world, it just questions it. You might say, okay, maybe I can't prove that I've been alive longer than 5 minutes, but it doesn't matter. I still have goals. I still care about people. I still want to be happy. That's fair. If you woke up 5 minutes ago with a full set of memories and feelings, those feelings would still guide you. You'd still love who you love. You'd still fear what you fear. In that sense, your life is still yours, even if it's short, even if it just started. But the idea doesn't go away. It waits. The next time you feel sure of something, of how long you've known someone, of who you are, of where you've been, ask yourself what you really know for sure. You might find that all you really have is now. The past might be a story, a useful story, maybe even a beautiful one, but still a story, still a file in your head. And maybe, just maybe, it got there 5 minutes ago. You wake up, your phone is on your nightstand, you check it, no texts, no missed calls. You think that's strange, but not impossible. You open your messages and scroll through old threads. You see names, friends, family. You tap on one. It opens, but there's nothing there. Just your messages, unanswered. You send a new one. Hey, good morning. No reply. You try someone else. Still nothing. You decide to call. The phone rings. Then a voice picks up. You hear your best friend's voice, or your brother's, or your partner's. You say, hey, it's me. The voice on the other end is quiet for a second. Then they ask, who is this? You think it's a joke. You laugh. You say their name. You tell them it's you. They go silent again, then say they think you've got the wrong number. You start to feel cold. You hang up and try someone else. The same thing happens. Every person you know denies ever knowing you. You walk outside. You knock on your neighbor's door. You've lived next to her for years. She waters her garden every morning. She's borrowed your ladder. You know her dog's name. She opens the door and looks at you like she's never seen you before. You remind her of the ladder, of the dog, of last Christmas when she brought cookies. She shakes her head, says she's sorry, says she's never met you. At first, you think something's wrong with them. A gas leak, maybe. A shared delusion. Then you start to wonder if it's you. You go to work. You badge in, but the scanner flashes red. You walk up to the front desk. You explain who you are. They search your name in the system. Nothing comes up. You point to your office, your desk, your chair. But there's someone else sitting there now. They tell you to leave or security will be called. You try to explain. They don't believe you. They say they've never heard your name before. You feel something shift in your chest. It's not just confusion anymore. It's something deeper, something heavier. You start to think about all the conversations you've ever had, all the photos you've ever taken, all the moments you've shared with people. You go through your phone again. You find pictures, a birthday party, a weekend trip, a graduation, faces of people who now claim they've never met you. You send them the photos. No response. You call again. They block your number. You visit your parents' house. You knock. Your mother opens the door. She looks older than you remember. Her eyes don't recognize you. You say, Mom, it's me. She steps back. She asks if you're lost. You say your full name. She doesn't react. You tell her where you grew up, the name of your childhood dog, the school you went to. She says she doesn't have a child by that name. She tells you to leave. You stand outside and look at the house. You remember every room, every fight, every meal, but none of it counts if no one else remembers. Memory is fragile. It's also private. You can't make someone else remember something they insist never happened. You start to realize how much of who you are depends on being known. You go online. You search your name. You expect to find your social media, your work profile, maybe an old post on a forum. Nothing comes up. You check your accounts, logged out. You try to log back in. It says your email doesn't exist. You try your backup. Still nothing. Every trace of you online is gone. No email, no photos, no comments. No record that you ever existed. You feel like a ghost. You walk through places that should be familiar, but nothing connects. You sit on a bench and watch people pass by. They're talking, laughing, living. You wonder what makes them real. Maybe it's that someone knows them, that someone could call their name and they'd turn. You try to imagine what you look like to them. A stranger, a nobody. You want to shout. You want to shake someone. You want to prove you exist. But how do you do that if no one remembers you? You go home, or at least to where you think home is. Your key doesn't work. You knock. A man answers. You tell him this is your apartment. He says he's lived there for years. You tell him your name. He says that name doesn't show up on the lease. You show him your ID. He says it looks fake. You tell him you have things inside. He says to leave, or he's calling the police. You leave. You go to a hotel. You try to book a room. The receptionist asks for a card and ID. You hand them over. They swipe the card. It gets declined. You try another. Declined again. You check your banking app. No record of your account. No transactions. Nothing. You look at your ID again. It looks right. Your face, your name, your birthday. But it's not in the system. Not in any system. You sleep in your car if you still have one. You sit there and think. You try to list everything about yourself. Where you went to school, your favorite book, the song you played on repeat in college, the scar on your knee from when you were 7. You still remember it all. It's all there. But no one else remembers any of it. That makes it feel less real. Memory only means something when it's shared. That's what makes birthdays, anniversaries, inside jokes, they only exist when someone else joins in. Without that, it's like talking into a void. You keep trying. You write letters, you send emails. You walk up to old friends and tell them who you are. Some listen, most don't. They look at you with pity or fear or boredom. You wonder what's worse, being forgotten or being ignored. You try to explain the feeling. You say, I'm not asking you to fix it, I just want you to say you remember me. They still don't. They say they're sorry, they walk away. Days pass, maybe weeks. It's hard to tell. You stop checking your phone. You stop trying to explain. You watch other people live their lives and you try to figure out how to start yours over. You think about changing your name, moving to a new city, getting a job no one needs to verify. But you also wonder if it will happen again, if the forgetting will spread, if this is just the start. You try to hold on to your memories, but they start to fade. Not all at once, just the edges. A name here, a date there. You wonder if your mind is trying to match the outside world, if it's easier to forget than to be forgotten. You start writing things down every day, what you saw, what you felt, who you spoke to, if anyone. It's not much, but it helps. The pages become your new memory. They don't lie, they don't deny, they don't walk away. You read them at night, just to hear your own voice, just to remember that you are still here. Imagine a world where pain feels good and pleasure hurts. That shift wouldn't just change how people react to touching a hot stove or eating cake. It would flip society upside down. You wouldn't smile at comfort, you'd wince, you wouldn't cry at injury, you'd crave it. From childhood to old age, everything would work differently because everything we've built depends on our basic reactions. Seek pleasure, avoid pain. Start with something simple, a scraped knee. In this world, a child falls on the pavement and scrapes their skin. But instead of crying, they laugh. They press into the gravel to feel it again. Their parent rushes over, worried, but the child looks up smiling, asking to do it again. At first, you'd think something is wrong, but in this world, that's normal. The sting of torn skin sends a rush of comfort. It feels soothing, so they keep going. They chase falls, bumps, cuts. They bruise themselves the way children in our world chase ice cream. Now flip the other side. That same child sits down to eat a slice of cake. It looks soft, it smells sweet, but as soon as they take a bite, their face twists, their eyes water. Not because the cake tastes bad, but because the pleasure burns. It hurts. The more they enjoy it, the more it stings. They push the plate away. They don't want dessert. They'd rather stub a toe than eat a treat. That's not a quirk. That's biology in this world. Nerves are wired in reverse. The brain reads soft, sweet, warm things as sharp, jagged, unbearable. It reads cuts, aches, and shocks as comfort. People learn fast. They stop doing what hurts, and what hurts is pleasure. Take relationships. A kiss would feel like a slap, a hug would sting, holding hands would throb. Love would still exist, but people would show it in new ways. Instead of soft touches, they'd show care through rough pressure, sharp grips, or controlled pain. Think of how we already have this in small forms. Some people squeeze hands when they're overwhelmed. Some people get tattoos to mark important moments. In this world, that kind of pain becomes the standard language of affection. You wouldn't cuddle on the couch, you'd share a controlled burn. Sex becomes something else entirely. The acts that bring pleasure now would repel. Instead, people would seek out the physical discomfort of pressure, resistance, maybe even harm, in ways that feel grounding and intimate. That doesn't mean people would destroy their bodies. Just like in our world, there's a limit. Too much pain still means damage. Nerves would still send warning signals when harm goes too far. But the initial edge, the beginning of injury, would be what people chase. Healthcare would shift. Doctors would have to stop patients from hurting themselves for comfort. You'd walk into a clinic and see signs not about avoiding pain, but about regulating it. Don't scratch that wound. It might feel good, but it won't heal. People might pick at cuts, pull muscles, or overwork broken bones because the ache soothes them. Clinics might be filled with people who've sought pain the way people today seek rest. Mental health would look different too. People might spiral not because they feel too much pain, but because they've lost access to it. Someone in grief might press their hand against sharp stone just to feel okay. Others might fear comfort. Someone offering a soft place to sleep or a gentle touch might trigger anxiety, not calm. Therapists might work to help people tolerate happiness, not sadness. The economy would reflect this reversal. Spa services wouldn't offer massages or warm towels. They'd offer ice baths, pressure therapy, carefully controlled jolts. A pleasure center might look like a mild torture chamber designed to give just enough pain to ease the mind. Movie theaters might play scenes of emotional distress to avoid giving the audience joy. Restaurants would build menus around sour, bitter, or bland flavors, anything to dull the pain of sweet or savory. Chefs might burn or bruise ingredients to make them bearable. Advertising would adjust. Companies wouldn't promise comfort, they'd promise resistance. Our chairs don't support you, they challenge you. Sleep like you're falling down a hill. Experience the bite of true satisfaction. Brands wouldn't show people relaxing. They'd show people grimacing, straining, tensing with smiles. Law and punishment would have to evolve. If pain feels good, then causing pain might no longer deter crime. Fines might replace physical punishments. Or perhaps the system would do the opposite. It might punish people with kindness. Instead of a jail cell, offenders might be sentenced to weeks of comfort, soft beds, warm food, sweet music. That would be unbearable. That would break them. Even sports would change. Players wouldn't chase victory to feel the rush of winning. They'd chase the feeling of strain, impact, the edge of injury. Coaches might say, push through the comfort, fight the softness, don't let your body relax, it'll hurt too much. Fans wouldn't cheer the winning goal, they'd cheer the tackle, the fall, the collision. Childbirth, usually one of the most painful experiences a body can go through, might become euphoric. People might line up for it, craving that specific form of deep physical intensity. It wouldn't reduce the risk or danger of birth, but the emotional and sensory experience would shift from fear to longing. Even crime might adapt. A thief wouldn't torture you for information. They'd play soft music and offer you cake. You'd break down fast, overwhelmed by the pleasure. Interrogations would use kindness as a weapon. Every industry would bend to the reversal. Architecture might avoid soft corners. Homes might be built with firm beds, uneven floors, rough walls. Fashion would favor textures that scratch or squeeze. People wouldn't want smooth, silk fabrics. They'd want burlap, denim, or even metal. Clothing wouldn't aim to comfort. It would aim to stimulate pain. Religion might reframe suffering. In our world, some faiths already value sacrifice and pain as paths to growth. In this world, comfort might be the sacrifice. Sitting through joy might be an act of devotion. A monk might spend hours in stillness, enduring a soft breeze across their skin without flinching. Saints might be remembered not for what they gave up, but for what they endured in kindness. Even language would evolve. People wouldn't say, "That feels good." They'd say, "That hurts right." Compliments would flip. "You're such a pain" might mean "you're so comforting." "You light up my life" might be the worst thing to hear from someone. Kids wouldn't cry when they fall, they'd cry when you sing to them. The line between what we chase and what we avoid is thin. We act like it's natural to want pleasure and hate pain. But that's not a rule, it's just how we're wired. Change the wiring, and the world rebuilds itself. Every choice we make, from food to friendship, follows that wiring. Flip the signals, and nothing stays the same. You wake up to a knock at your door. It's early. You answer, still half asleep. 2 police officers stand there. They ask your name. You tell them. One reads from a small device. "You're under arrest for armed robbery," he says. You laugh at first, thinking it's a mistake. But they don't smile. You say you were home. They say they have you on camera. You say that's impossible. Then they show you the footage. It's your face, your voice, your walk. It's you. But it's not. You have a clone. You didn't make it. Maybe a company did. Maybe the government. Maybe someone broke the law and made a copy without your consent. Doesn't matter. The clone exists. It looks like you, sounds like you, even has your same memories up to the point of creation. It went into a bank, pointed a gun, took the money, and left. And now they think you're responsible. The core problem is identity. If someone who looks exactly like you commits a crime, how do you prove you didn't do it? DNA won't help. It matches. Fingerprints match too. So does gait recognition, voice ID, facial structure. Everything we use to confirm identity fails. The systems weren't built for this. You try to explain. You say, "That wasn't me." They ask who it was. You say, "My clone." They ask where the clone is. You say you don't know. They ask if you have proof the clone exists. You don't. They say you made it up. Now imagine you're the judge. You have a person in front of you who looks guilty. The evidence says they're guilty, but they say they aren't the one who did it. Someone else who looks just like them did. You ask if they expect the court to believe there are 2 of them walking around. They say yes. It sounds like science fiction, but it's not. We already clone animals. Human cloning isn't legal in most countries, but the science is close. If it happens, the legal system won't be ready. The system is built around one assumption: 1 person equals 1 identity. Clones break that. There's also the issue of intent. In law, crimes require intent, what lawyers call mens rea. Did the person mean to do the crime? If your clone robbed a bank and you didn't know or help or plan it, then you didn't form that intent, your clone did. But what if your clone has your exact thoughts? What if it acts like you, talks like you, makes decisions like you? Some will argue that the clone's actions reflect your nature. They'll say the clone robbed the bank because you would have if given the chance. But that's not how justice works. We don't punish people for what they might do. We punish for what they actually did. Flip the situation. What if your clone saves someone's life, pulls a child from a burning car, gives CPR to a stranger? Should you get credit? Should you be called a hero? Most would say no. You didn't do it. Your clone did. So why should punishment work differently? There's another angle. What if you made the clone? What if you signed a form and let a lab copy your body and brain? Now the question shifts. Did you create something you're responsible for? Parents aren't punished for their adult children's crimes. But if you built a being that mirrors your mind, is that different? Say you make a clone to do tasks, work, errands, maybe just for company. You treat it like an assistant. Then one day, it disappears. A week later, it commits a robbery. Is that your fault? You didn't tell it to do that, but you did release it into the world. You might be held liable, not for the crime, but for the risk you created, like someone who lets a dangerous animal loose, not because you meant harm, but because you lost control. Then there's the clone's view. From its perspective, it's a full person. It thinks, it remembers, it feels. It doesn't see itself as just a copy. It sees itself as real. So when it acts on its own. It might blame you for its life, but it doesn't consider itself your puppet. If it commits a crime, it expects to face the punishment, not you. But society might not see it that way. Imagine a world where criminals start using clones as scapegoats. A person commits a crime, then claims, "That wasn't me, that was my clone." Courts would need a way to tell the difference. They'd need to ask, which one was there? Which one pulled the trigger? Which one made the choice? Without a reliable way to separate you from your copy, the risk of injustice rises. Some might say the solution is to treat clones like twins. Identical twins share DNA, sometimes even voices and looks, but we don't confuse them in court. We rely on context, alibis, eyewitnesses. But clones go deeper. Twins don't share memories. Clones can. That's what makes the issue sharper. If a clone was made yesterday, it remembers everything you remember. It might even believe it is you. That confusion isn't just legal, it's personal. Suppose your clone walks up to your old friend and says hello. They talk like you. They reference private jokes. The friend might believe it's you. What happens if the clone ruins that friendship or wrecks your reputation? Do you get to sue for defamation, or are you suing yourself? Now take it further. What if the clone goes to your job? Your boss sees the same face, hears the same voice. The clone does the work, answers emails, sits through meetings. You show up and say you've been replaced. Who do they believe? If the clone performs well, they might not care. They might say, same result, what's the problem? You become the outsider in your own life. All of this shows one thing. Identity isn't just what's inside your body, it's how the world sees you. If someone else can wear your face and carry your past, then your place in the world can be stolen or shared. That's the heart of the dilemma. If a clone of you commits a crime, you didn't do it, but proving that might be impossible. And if people can't tell the difference, the law might hold you responsible anyway, not because it's fair, but because it's easier. You might live a life where you're always looking over your shoulder, not for strangers, but for yourself. You walk into a room, everyone turns, not because you said something, but because they just heard what you were thinking. You didn't speak out loud, you didn't move your lips, but your thoughts played like a podcast in their heads, clear, unfiltered, word for word. Just like that, privacy ends. In this world, thinking out loud isn't a figure of speech, it's real. Your thoughts stream in real time. You can't turn them off. You can't choose what gets broadcast. If you think it, others hear it. It works the same way for everyone. Every mind is an open channel. The effects start early. Kids in school don't just say the wrong answer, they think it, and the whole class hears it. A child stares at a math problem and thinks, I don't get this, and 30 voices around the room laugh or whisper or cringe. Embarrassment hits faster. There's no room to fake confidence. Everyone knows how nervous you are before you speak. They hear your doubt before you raise your hand. Lying becomes harder. You try to smile at a friend and say everything's fine, but your thoughts say, I hate how she talks to me. She hears it. She flinches. Now you have to explain. You didn't mean for it to come out. You were just annoyed. But it came through anyway. Even feelings you try to ignore don't stay hidden. Jealousy, fear, shame, they all get airtime. Imagine a job interview. You sit across from the hiring manager. She asks about your last position. You answer with a polished story. But your thoughts say, I left because my old boss was a nightmare. She hears that too. She asks a follow-up. You panic. You think, she knows I'm nervous. She does. She thinks he's sweating. You hear it. The entire conversation becomes layered, not just with spoken words, but with a constant stream of mental commentary. Every doubt, every opinion, every judgment heard by both sides. Dating doesn't survive the same way. First dates feel like interrogation rooms. You see someone across the table, and before you speak, they already know what you think of them. She's pretty, but her laugh is weird. He's nice, but I'm not attracted to him. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. There's no delay between thought and impact. Attraction becomes raw, so does rejection. Relationships change. You can't say nothing's wrong while thinking, I can't stand this. Your partner hears both. Arguments shift tone. There's less room to pretend, but there's also less room to heal. Some thoughts aren't meant to be shared. A passing frustration, a harsh judgment, a private fear. These used to pass unnoticed. Now they hang in the air. Workplaces become tense. In a meeting, your boss outlines a new policy. You nod, but your thoughts say, this is a disaster. She pauses. She looks at you. She heard it. Your coworkers did too. Office politics lose subtlety. Promotions, rivalries, teamwork. It all gets messier. Trust weakens. People second-guess each other constantly. You don't just have to manage your behavior. You have to manage your mind. Religion and belief take a new shape. Places of worship become riskier. You sit in a quiet room and try to pray, but your mind drifts. Doubts creep in. Does this even matter? Am I just wasting time? People around you hear it. They might feel judged or betrayed or inspired. You hear their thoughts too. Some are deep in belief. Others feel lost. You're all exposed. Faith becomes public. So does doubt. Even walking down the street feels different. You pass a stranger and think, nice jacket, or he looks tired, or I wish I looked like that. They hear it. Some smile, some scowl, some say nothing. But they all know. You know their thoughts too. You hear opinions that were once silent, compliments, criticism, prejudice, desire. All of it, all the time. Politics become impossible to contain. A public figure steps onto a stage. She speaks with passion. But her thoughts say, I don't believe half of this. The crowd hears it. Trust collapses. Voters stop listening to what politicians say and start reacting to what they think. Campaigns don't rely on slogans anymore. They rely on mental discipline. Schools teach new skills, not just reading and writing, but mental control. Kids learn how to focus thoughts, filter reactions, keep stray ideas from slipping out. Meditation becomes survival. A careless thought can cost you friends, jobs, even freedom. Mental health takes a hit. Anxiety grows. People worry not just about what they do, but what they think. A passing dark thought, once private, now becomes public record. Someone imagines pushing a person in front of a train, not because they want to, but because the mind can't help running wild. It used to be harmless. Now the person next to you hears it. They report it. You get flagged as dangerous. Courts struggle to adapt. Thoughts are no longer hearsay, they're evidence. But not every thought is intent. People think terrible things they never mean to act on. The line between imagination and decision gets blurry. A person thinks, I could rob this place, and the cashier hits the panic button. The law has to ask, does a thought count as a threat? Can you be charged for what you think? Artists suffer too. Creativity needs space. Writers, painters, musicians, they all work through ugly drafts, strange images, unformed ideas. But in this world, every false start gets broadcast. Every half-thought reaches an audience. You try to write a novel, and people hear the first version of every sentence. They hear your doubts about the story. They hear when you give up. Some people isolate. They move to quiet places, not to escape noise, but to escape being heard. Others find new intimacy in openness. No one hides. You know who's honest. You know who loves you. There's no pretending. Some friendships deepen. Others collapse. Technology adjusts. Headsets offer artificial silence. They dampen outgoing thoughts, not perfectly, but enough. Cities pass laws about thought volume. Restaurants post signs, please keep thoughts respectful. Public transit runs quiet zones. People learn to nod instead of speak. But the mental stream never stops. It just gets managed. Criminals adapt. They don't need cameras or bugs. They just sit near someone and listen. Corporate secrets, private plans, bank pins, all spilled by careless minds. Security moves beyond locks. It moves into mental training. You don't guard your home, you guard your thoughts. Language loses power. If thoughts say everything, spoken words lose weight. You say, I'm fine, but your thoughts already gave the full story. You say, I forgive you, but your mind betrays the grudge. People listen less to voices and more to the mental feed. Words become decoration. The truth lies in thought. You learn to censor yourself at the root, not after the fact. Before the thought forms, you shape it. You plan every inner sentence. You turn into both speaker and audience. Always watching, always editing. You stop thinking freely. You start thinking safely. The choice is simple. Save the world or save the person you love most. One or the other. You don't get both. The threat is real. It's not a theory or a warning. It's happening. Maybe it's a virus. Maybe it's war. Maybe it's a chain reaction in the atmosphere that will burn the planet to ash. Doesn't matter. What matters is you've been told clearly, directly, that there's only one way to stop it. Someone close to you must die. Not just anyone. Not a stranger. Not an old acquaintance. It has to be someone you love. Deeply. Personally. The kind of love that leaves a hole when it's gone. And you have to be the one to choose. You sit in a room, alone. There's no clock. Just a button. If you press it, the world survives. People live, cities stay standing, children grow up, but the person you love dies. Maybe not instantly, maybe not painfully, but they're gone, and it's because of you. If you don't press it, the world ends. slowly or suddenly, but it ends. And it's still because of you. You try to think logically. You tell yourself the numbers matter. One person for billions. That's the obvious choice. Any rational person would make it. But this isn't about logic. It's about love. You imagine their face, their voice, the way they laugh at things only you find funny, the way they hold you when words don't help. You try to picture the world without that. You try to picture waking up knowing you chose it. Some people would press the button without hesitating. They'd say it's their duty. They'd say love means putting others first. But saying it and doing it aren't the same. In the moment, the weight feels different. You're not letting someone go. You're handing them over. You're signing their death warrant. You're looking at everything they are, every memory, every plan, every fear, and deciding that all of it is worth less than the rest of the world. Other people might refuse, not because they want the world to burn, but because they can't do it. They can't live with the choice. They can't carry the guilt. They'd rather let the world end than become the person who sacrificed someone they love. That feels selfish. But in their mind, it feels like survival. They'll hold their person's hand and face the end together. If everything's going to disappear, at least they won't be alone. There's also the question of consent. Does the person you love get a say? Do they know what's at stake? Do you tell them? If you do, they might volunteer. They might say, do it, save everyone. That makes it harder, because now you know they trust you to do it. They're giving you permission. But that doesn't make it easier. Now it's not just your loss, it's their gift, and you still have to carry it. You think about children. If your child is the person you love most, could you press that button? Could you end their life to save strangers? Other children? Other families? You know, people would call you a hero. You know, history books would write your name. But none of that would help at night when it's quiet and you're alone, and you remember their voice asking for one more story, one more hug, one more minute. Maybe it's your partner. You've built a life together. You've made plans. You've survived hard things. They know you better than anyone. You look at them, and they're the reason the world feels worth saving. And now, they're the cost. You wonder what happens after. Say you do it. Say you press the button, the world survives, people go on, they cheer, they rebuild, they move forward. But you don't. You live in a world you saved, but it feels empty. People call you brave, they shake your hand, they thank you. But they don't know what it cost. They didn't see the moment. They didn't hear the silence afterward. They didn't feel the part of you that stopped breathing the second you made the choice. You wonder if it would be better to lie, to say it was random, that you didn't choose, that it just happened. But deep down, you'd know the truth. You'd carry it, no matter what face you showed the world. There's another version of the story. You don't press the button. You can't do it. You watch the world collapse. People suffer. Systems fail. Fires spread. You hold the person you love and wait for it to reach you. Some people call you a monster. Others understand, but none of it matters, because the end comes anyway. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you ask the impossible question. What if there was another way? What if the choice was fake? What if this is a test, and pressing the button proves you're willing to kill the thing you care about most? What if not pressing it proves something else? Loyalty, love, faith? But no one gives you that answer. There's no twist, no trick, just the choice. You replay every memory. You count every reason not to let them go. You think about the way they look when they sleep, the way they talk to people, the way they make you feel like yourself. You tell yourself you're doing this for everyone. You tell yourself they'd understand. You tell yourself this is the only way. But then you hear their voice. You see their eyes. You feel their hand in yours. And suddenly, the rest of the world feels far away. You sit there, the button in front of you, the decision in your hands. No timer, no warning, just you, and the person you love, and the weight of what comes next. You're standing in a grocery store, deciding between apples and oranges. You pick the apples. Somewhere in a universe you'll never see, another version of you picks the oranges. You don't feel it happen. You don't hear a sound. But in that moment, the world splits. One version of you keeps living this life. Another version starts living that one. The decision was small, but the fork is real. That's the idea behind infinite versions of you. Every choice creates a new path. Every yes and no, every delay, every change of heart spins off another you. Some versions are almost identical. Some are wildly different. In one, you're a teacher. In another, you never finished school. In one, you said something you regret. In another, you kept it to yourself. They're all you. But which one is the real one? The version reading this feels real. You remember your life. You feel your body. You see the words on the screen. You're not a shadow or a copy. You're living your own life, but so is every other version. They each believe they're real too. They have their own memories, their own reasons, their own path that led them to now. So who gets to claim the title of real? The word real stops working when everything is real. If there are infinite versions of you, then real becomes local. It means this version right here. You don't disappear just because others exist, but you also don't stand above them. You're not the original, you're one of many. Like a single page in a book with no last chapter, you try to imagine them, the other yous, the one who moved away, the one who stayed, the one who called when it mattered, the one who didn't. Some versions of you are happier, some are lonelier, some made a choice you never even considered, and it changed everything. You wonder what their lives feel like, if they wonder about you too. You might picture a version of you who said yes to something you said no to, a job, a relationship, a dare. They stepped forward while you stepped back, or maybe they hesitated while you acted. That one moment put them on a new track. They met different people, faced different problems, learned things you never will. You learned things they never will. You start to feel strange. If every choice makes a new version of you, then how much credit do you get for who you are? Maybe it was just one decision that brought you here. Maybe luck played a bigger part than you want to admit. Maybe you are just one possible shape in a sea of alternatives. You're not the best version, you're not the worst, you're just one of them. And yet this version matters to you. It has to. Because this is the only one you can feel. You can't reach across universes. You can't swap places. You're stuck with this path, these memories, this name that gives it weight. Maybe not because it's special, but because it's yours. Now think about regret. Every regret is a version of you that didn't make the mistake. They said the right thing. They left at the right time. They made the better choice. You imagine their life clean and smooth, untouched by your flaws, but you only imagine the good parts. You don't see what they struggle with. You don't see what they lost or take pride. You did something hard. You overcame something. You made a good choice. But there's a version of you that failed, that gave up, that didn't try. They still exist. You don't erase them by doing better. But maybe you honor them. Maybe you carry their weight. Now ask yourself this. If all versions are real and you're just one, then what's the point of trying? Why make good choices if bad versions of you already exist? Why fight for anything? Because you're still here. Because your decisions still matter to you. Because this version still has to wake up in the morning and live with the results. You don't get to live their lives. They don't get to live yours. Every moment, you pick a path, not to prove you're the best version, just to shape the next day. You might think of it like a tree. Each branch is a version of you, but you're on one branch only. You can look across, imagine the others, guess where they go, but you can't jump. You can only keep climbing. And not every split is big. Some are small. You eat a sandwich instead of skipping lunch. You take a longer route home. You don't text back. Each one nudges the timeline, not in a dramatic way, but just enough to make things different. In some worlds, your life is nearly the same. In others, it's unrecognizable. Maybe there's a version of you who never learned to read, another who lives by the ocean, another who never met the person who changed everything. You'll never meet them. You'll never trade places. But they're out there. So what do you do with that knowledge? You can try to be careful, try to steer toward the better branches. But even then, you can't control everything. You don't know which small decision leads to something big. Sometimes the safe choice breaks things. Sometimes the risky one fixes them. It's not about choosing perfectly. It's about choosing honestly. About being present in the version you're living. You're not more real because you're aware of the others. You're not less real because you didn't become them. You're just this you here now. Every day, more versions of you split off. Some go far, some stay close. But this one, this mind, this body, this moment, is the only one you get to feel. And for that reason alone, it matters more than the rest. There's a button in front of you. If you press it, you get $1 million. No strings, no taxes, no follow-up questions. The money appears in your account. You can spend it however you want. But the moment you press it, someone dies. A stranger. You won't know who. You won't see it happen. It won't be traced back to you. It's clean, invisible, and final. The person could be anyone. A farmer in Brazil, a taxi driver in New York, a mother in Vietnam, a teenager in Ghana. They won't know why they're dying. They won't see it coming. Their life just stops because you pressed a button. You sit there and stare at it. $1 million. Enough to clear debt, enough to buy a house, enough to walk away from the job you hate, enough to pay for your kids' school, your parents' bills, your own freedom. But someone else pays the price. You never meet them. You never hear their name. All you have is the knowledge that they're gone, and it's because of you. You start to run the numbers. The world has over 8 billion people. One death out of 8 billion. You tell yourself it's not personal. You didn't choose them. It's random. And people die every second, all over the world. Heart attacks, car crashes, disease, violence. What's one more? But that logic doesn't hold. Those deaths aren't your fault. This one is. You cause it, even if you never see it. That makes it different. You might try to justify it. You think, what if I donate half the money? You build a plan. You give to hospitals. You fund shelters. You start a scholarship. Maybe your one action causes one death, but your money saves hundreds. That should balance it out. But the button doesn't care what you do afterward. The deal is simple. Press, collect, kill. You wonder if good intentions change the outcome. If you press it to save your family, does that soften the blow? If you do it with guilt in your heart, does that matter? Or is it the same as pressing it with a smile? Now you try the other side. You imagine the stranger, a real person, not just a number, someone going about their day. Maybe they're holding their child. Maybe they're rushing to work. Maybe they're alone. They don't know that you're deciding their fate. You close your eyes and picture them. Not their name, not their face, just the idea of them. Living, breathing, about to be erased. Would you press the button if the stranger was in the room with you? Would you look into their eyes and still go through with it? Probably not. That's why the deal hides them. Out of sight means out of mind. The distance makes it easier. You think about how often people make choices that hurt others without seeing it. A business cuts corners. A government looks the other way. A person drives distracted. People get hurt, but no one feels it directly. The button turns that idea into something sharper. It puts the cost up front. You might not press it today, but what about tomorrow? What if things get worse? You lose your job, your family gets sick, the bills pile up, your options shrink. The button sits there unchanged, still offering a way out. Would you press it then? And what if others start pressing it too? You live in a world where millions of people are desperate. Some are angry, some are reckless. If one person presses the button, you feel horror. If 10 people press it, you feel fear. If 100 million press it, what happens to that horror? Does it fade? Do people stop caring? You wonder if pressing it once makes it easier to press again. The first time feels like murder. The second might feel like strategy. The third might feel like habit. Maybe you don't press it. Maybe you walk away. You tell yourself you value life, that no amount of money justifies death, that even a stranger matters. You feel proud, but the button stays. Someone else might press it, and when they do, you still get nothing, and someone still dies. Your moral high ground doesn't stop the loss. It just keeps your hands clean. You might ask, what if the stranger is already dying? What if pressing the button ends a life that was about to end anyway? But you don't get to know that. You don't control who the stranger is. They could be anyone. A child with their whole life ahead. A person who just got their second chance. You don't get to pick. That's what makes the button cruel. It offers power without clarity. It asks you to value your gain over someone else's entire existence. And it doesn't even tell you who you're taking from. You imagine a world where everyone has their own button. Some press, some don't. But over time, the people who press it have more money, more comfort, more influence. They live in better homes, they hire better lawyers, they run companies, they make laws. The ones who don't press it struggle. They call it ethics. They call it conscience. But the world doesn't reward restraint, it rewards results. You look at the button again. It hasn't moved, it hasn't changed. All it needs is your finger. One touch, one death, $1 million. You know what it does, you know what it costs, you know what it gives. Now it's just a question of whether or not you press it. You get 50 years in each body. After that, you switch. No say in who it is, no warning. One moment you're yourself, the next you're not. New face, new voice, new hands, new everything. But your mind stays the same. Same thoughts, same memories, same regrets, and you never die. That's the trade. Immortality, but with body swaps every 50 years. The first time it might feel like a miracle. You hit 50, your body starts to slow down. Joints ache, skin sags, energy dips. Then you wake up in someone else, maybe 25, maybe 30, maybe stronger, faster, healthier. You look in the mirror and see a stranger, but behind the eyes, it's still you. You get to start over. You can vanish from your old life and reappear in a new one. New city, new job. No one knows who you were before. You can reinvent yourself, change your name, pick a new direction. That's the upside. But the questions start piling up. Whose body is this? Did someone give it up? Did someone lose it, or was it empty when you arrived? You don't know. No one tells you. You might wake up in a body with scars you didn't earn, tattoos you didn't choose, a limp you didn't expect. The body might be younger, but it comes with a past you don't get to keep. And you have to learn it fast, how it moves, how it sounds, what it can't do. You touch your face and feel the difference. You try to smile and it feels crooked. You speak and hear a voice you don't recognize. You walk down the street and strangers glance at you in ways they never did before. Some with fear, some with interest, some with nothing at all. You lose the way the world used to treat you. Now you have to adjust. You wonder if you can keep relationships. Friends might notice you aging slower. Maybe you fake it, move often, keep people at a distance. But what about love? You build something with someone for decades. They grow older. You don't. They ask questions. You lie, or you leave, or you tell the truth and they don't believe you. Then the swap comes. You don't control when. It just happens. You go to sleep at the end of the 50-year mark and you wake up different. The person who loved you won't know what happened. They might think you died, disappeared, moved on. You might try to find them again, but you can't explain the new face. Even if you do, would they still love you, or just the version they used to know? The longer you live, the more it weighs on you. You leave lives behind every half-century. Some people lose friends to time. You lose them to your own existence. You also lose your history. The world changes, but you stay outside of it. You watch trends come and go. Governments rise and fall. Language shifts. Technology evolves. You spend your life adapting. Every 50 years, the body changes. Every decade, the culture does too. You learn again and again how to fit in. You become a permanent outsider, present but never rooted. You stop thinking of yourself as a person with a fixed identity. You become a collection of selves. The you that lived in a tall, broad frame. The you that lived in a smaller, quieter one. The you with light skin. The you with dark. The you who had a deep voice. The you who didn't. Every body shapes how the world sees you, and over time, you feel the difference. Some versions of you get respect, others don't. Some get space, others get suspicion. You start to realize how much of your experience was tied to the body you used to have, and how much of it wasn't about you at all. That brings other questions. If you commit a crime in one body and swap into another, are you still responsible? If you build something, an invention, a book, a piece of music, who gets credit when your face keeps changing? How do you prove you're the same person when everything visible about you resets? Maybe the body you wake up in has a past. Debts, enemies, family. You step into it without knowing the full picture. Someone calls you by a name you've never heard. Someone hugs you like they've missed you. Someone hits you without warning. You carry the consequences of someone else's life. You have to make a choice. Stay and clean up the mess, or disappear and start from scratch again. You begin to see time differently. 50 years becomes a chapter, not a lifetime. You treat decades the way most people treat seasons. You don't rush, you don't panic, you know you have time. But that also makes it easy to drift, to detach. You can always leave, always change. You stop holding on as tightly. You start to forget what you looked like originally. what your first voice sounded like, what your hands used to feel like. Photos help for a while. So do journals. But eventually it all fades. You become a ghost to your own past. You can recall what happened, but not how it felt in your original skin. You meet other people who seem immortal, and you wonder if they're like you. Swapping bodies, hiding in plain sight. You never ask. You don't want to be found out. You've seen what fear does to people. You've seen how the world reacts to things it can't explain. After a few hundred years, you stop counting. Time smooths out. Wars feel less urgent, trends less exciting. You've seen them before. The faces change, the slogans shift, but the patterns repeat. That doesn't make you wise, just tired. You try to stay curious, you pick up new hobbies, new languages, you study things that didn't exist a century ago. You fall in love again, knowing you'll lose it. You get hurt again, knowing you'll survive it. You keep moving, because that's what you do. You move, you adapt, you endure. But every 50 years, you still wake up a stranger. You still look in the mirror and meet yourself for the first time. And you still ask the same question. Is this life worth living if you never get to keep it? And somehow, every time, you answer yes. You walk into a room and see someone standing there. At first, you think it's a mirror. The shape is familiar, the posture, the way they breathe, but the details are off. Their skin is clearer, their clothes fit better, they stand straighter, speak smoother, carry a quiet confidence that you know you don't have. It's you, but it's not. It's the version of you that made every right choice. You shake their hand, their grip is firm, warm. You know everything about them because you know everything about yourself. But they seem to know more. They remember the same past, but they followed a different path. The one where you didn't procrastinate. The one where you said yes when it counted. The one where you took the risk. The one where you kept going when you quit. They're not a stranger, but they make you feel like one. You try to act normal. You ask questions. They answer politely. They're kind, but not apologetic. They don't hide who they are. They've done well. They live in a city you wanted to live in. They work the job you once said was your dream. They learned the language you gave up on. They travel. They write. They wake up early. They go to bed proud. You listen and nod and feel a knot tighten in your stomach. You know you should feel proud. You should feel inspired. But what you feel first is jealousy. Not loud, not sharp, just a slow, cold weight in your chest. Because this isn't just someone doing well, this is you doing well. The version of you that could have existed if you'd tried harder, or maybe just been luckier. You can't tell which. They don't brag, they don't have to. You see it in the way they move, the calm in their voice, the way they're not afraid of silence. You realize you're trying too hard. You keep checking your posture, fixing your shirt, forcing smiles. They don't. They just exist. At some point, you ask about things you regret. A friendship you lost. A job you walked away from. A lie you told that stuck. They nod. They remember it too. But in their world, it went differently. They apologized sooner. They stayed longer. They didn't walk away. You feel a sting in your throat. They didn't fix everything, but they fixed the things you still think about at night. You start to wonder, how much of this is my fault? That question sits heavy. You look at them and think, why not me? Same brain, same start, same talents, but they used theirs better. Or maybe they didn't get scared when you did. Maybe they were more patient. Maybe they didn't stop when it got hard. Maybe they were just in the right place at the right time and everything lined up. You want to believe that. You want to believe they just got lucky. But you know that's only part of it. You ask about love. They tell you they're in a good relationship. It's not perfect, but it works. They listened more. They opened up sooner. They didn't run. They didn't shut down. You try to smile again. You feel your jaw tighten. Then they ask about your life. You hesitate. You feel like you have to explain yourself. You mention the things you're proud of, but they sound smaller now. You try to make your life sound whole, but even you can hear the holes. They don't judge, they nod. They say, I've wondered what that would have been like, and you believe them. You realize you're the version they didn't become. You ask if they ever think about what they missed, the life you're living, the people you know, the mistakes you made that taught you something. They pause. They say yes. They don't regret their path, but they think about the others. They don't act like they have everything. They just carry it differently. That helps, a little. You start to see the cracks in their perfection. They still doubt themselves sometimes. They still get tired. They still wish they could turn their mind off. They made better choices, but they didn't escape being human. You realize perfection wasn't the right word. They're not flawless. They're just better in the ways that count. You feel two things at once, envy and admiration. You don't want to be them, not completely. But you wish you could borrow pieces, their focus, their patience, their belief that things would work out if they kept showing up. You wonder if it's too late to try. You ask one last question. You ask if they ever think about quitting, walking away, starting over. They say yes, everyone does. Even the version of you that looks perfect. When they leave, the room feels quiet. You sit there with everything you just saw. You don't feel better, but you don't feel worse. You feel real. You think about your next move. You don't have their life, but you still have yours. And maybe that's something, maybe not, but it's what you've got. You wake up in bed, but something feels off. The covers slide back onto your body instead of off. The sunlight fades from the room instead of growing brighter. Your eyes open, then shut. Your body rises from bed and walks backward across the room. You don't notice anything strange, because to you, it feels normal. That's just how things are. Time moves in reverse, but you've always known it that way. In this world, everything happens backwards. Rain rises from the ground and forms clouds. Buildings uncollapse into perfect shape. People dig holes to fill them with dirt. Food enters your mouth already chewed and reassembles itself before leaving the plate untouched. You grow younger with each passing year. Your hair darkens. Your bones strengthen. You return to youth, then childhood, then vanish into non-existence. And still, no one sees it as strange, because that's how it's always been. You don't remember your future. You remember your past, which in this world is what we would call the future. You remember events that haven't happened yet by our standards, but they've already happened for you. You're walking away from them. You carry them like old memories. You sit with a friend. They're telling a story. Their words go from full sentence to silence. You both laugh before the joke begins, but the rhythm feels right. They unsay something, and you nod, understanding the moment before it happens. The story ends at its beginning. You both lean back, satisfied. Birth isn't a start, it's a return. You lie in a hospital bed, surrounded by family. They cry, but not from joy. They know what comes next. You'll shrink, weaken, forget. You'll learn less with time, not more. You'll say fewer words. You'll need more help. One day, you'll stop speaking altogether. Then you'll stop breathing. Then you'll return to the womb, small and quiet. And then you'll disappear. But that's not how anyone sees it. To them, it's growth. You start as someone old, full of wisdom. Then you get younger, you get stronger, you become more agile. You move with energy, think faster, feel sharper. The world celebrates each year you lose, even though from our perspective, they're gaining them in reverse. Careers work differently too. You retire into training. You step away from a job and learn how to do it afterward. You start with deep knowledge, then slowly forget how to do what you once mastered. At the end, someone hires you for the first time. They show you around. You nod, as if it's all new. But somewhere deep down, you already know what comes next, or rather, what came before. Relationships unfold in reverse. You spend years with someone, then slowly drift apart. The shared home becomes separate apartments. The quiet becomes tension. The laughter fades. You fall out of love before you fall in. You meet at a party one day, and neither of you feels much. You shake hands, say goodbye, and walk in opposite directions. But again, no one questions it, because no one has ever seen it any other way. In this world, the arrow of time points backward, but meaning still exists. People care about moments, even if those moments are endings for us and beginnings for them. A wedding looks like a quiet final chapter. Two people step away from each other. They hand back rings. They walk off into their separate lives. But to them, that's the start of something. They don't call it an end. They call it a union. Even if, to us, it's coming undone. Memories work in the same direction time does. You remember the things behind you. That means, in a reverse time world, you remember what's ahead. You know what your future holds, but you don't remember the past. The past, in our view, is the future in theirs. So they don't recall their childhoods. They look forward to them. They don't remember being born. They anticipate returning there. Imagine walking backward your whole life and believing that's forward. Your steps feel natural. The view makes sense. The sun seems to rise in the west and set in the east, and that's just how it works. You'd build clocks to match. You'd write books from last page to first. You'd tell stories in reverse order. You'd feel proud when you got smaller, more innocent, less complicated. You'd think that's growth. Now ask yourself, if everything around you moved backward, but your memories matched the direction, would you notice? Would you think anything was wrong? Probably not. That's the real trap. The brain doesn't just track time, it builds it. It tells stories to give time shape. If the story runs in reverse but stays consistent, the brain accepts it. You wake up each day with a clear thread of cause and effect, even if the cause actually follows the effect. You don't question it because you've never seen the other way. You eat a meal and get hungrier. You train at a skill and get worse. You read a book and forget how it ends. The pieces still form a rhythm, still follow a pattern. You grow used to the pattern even if it's upside down. Science works too, just in reverse. Thermodynamics still applies. Entropy still builds, only in this world it decreases. Order increases. Broken things come together. Spilled water returns to the glass. Collapsed stars revive into suns. The rules stay consistent, only the direction changes. People find beauty in the same places. A tree dropping leaves still looks peaceful, even if for them it's spring arriving, not fall fading. A river flows backward, but still moves, still shines, still sings. You might wonder about free will. If you remember the future and act from that memory, are you choosing, or are you just following a script? But that's no different from how we wonder the same thing. We act based on memory too. Only ours points to the past. And still, we question how much we really choose. Time in reverse doesn't feel like rewinding. It feels like progress. You don't feel yourself moving backward. You feel time unfolding. You feel events building on each other. You don't notice that the build runs opposite to the world you once knew. You just live inside it, the same way everyone always has. You walk into the room and your pet looks at you, really looks at you, not with the usual wide eyes or slow tail flick. Something's different. Then they open their mouth and speak. No growl, no bark, no chirp, no purr, just words. Clear, human words. You don't know how or why, but you understand them, and they only have 10 minutes. They start talking fast, not in panic, but with purpose, like they've been waiting a long time to get this out. Maybe they say your name. Maybe they call you friend or you. But they know who you are. They've always known. First, they talk about food. They want you to know how it feels to wait, to hear the sound of the bag or the can and feel their whole body light up. They tell you that the bowl is too cold, or that it's always a little too much or not quite enough. Not that they're mad, they just want to help you get it right. Then they talk about routine. They know when you leave. They know when you're late. They say your patterns like lines from a book, the jingling of your keys, the sigh before you sit down, the way you say, just a second, but don't mean it. They wait by the door longer than you think. Not because they're bored, but because they care. They ask about your phone. They say it takes you away, that sometimes you look at it and forget they're in the room. They say they understand, but they miss your eyes. They miss the way you used to notice the little things, like the way they stretch, or when they bring you something, maybe a toy, maybe a leaf, maybe just their presence. They remember things. You think they forget, but they don't. They remember the time you were sick and stayed in bed all day. They stayed close. They didn't understand what was wrong, but they knew not to leave your side. They remember when you cried. They didn't know the reason, but they knew you needed quiet and something warm nearby. They bring up something you didn't expect, a time you yelled, or shut a door too fast, or left for longer than usual. They don't accuse you, but they noticed. They want to know why. They ask if it was their fault. You say no, and they believe you, but they still carry it. Then they start describing the world as they see it, not like a human, but in their own way. They talk about smells you can't sense, sounds that never reach your ears. They tell you about the neighbor 2 houses over who cooks late at night, or the cat that walks by your window every morning. They describe your house like a map, corners you never notice, spots that hold warmth, Shadows that move in just the right way when the light shifts. They talk about you. Not what you do, but what you are. They say you're tired more than you know, that your laugh has changed, that you move slower now when you get up in the morning. They notice the little pain in your knee, the way you favor your left side when you sit. They see how you hold your breath when you read bad news. They don't understand the words, but they know the weight behind them. They ask why you don't rest more. They tell you the couch is better than you think, that the sun on your face isn't wasted time, that they've seen you sit still, but never really stop. They say they'd trade all the toys for just one afternoon where you don't check the clock. They bring up other people, faces they've seen come and go, the ones who made you smile, the ones who made you quiet. They say they like the one who brings treats. They're not sure about the one with loud shoes, but they remember them all, more than you think. They tell you who made you relax and who made you tense. They tell you about dreams, the kind they have when they twitch and breathe fast in sleep. They say they run in fields that don't exist, chasing things they can't name. They say sometimes you're there, not as you are, but as something else, lighter, louder, easier to follow. They don't know what dreams mean, but they like the ones where you're nearby. They mention the end, not in fear, not with dread, just as fact. They say they know they won't be around forever. They don't measure time like you do, but they feel it. They feel the days change, the seasons move. They want you to know that when they go, they won't feel alone, because they were never alone when it counted. You were there. They tell you not to worry about what you did wrong, not to replay the bad days. They say they remember the warmth, the sound of your voice, the times you sat down when you didn't have to, the extra scoop, the way you looked at them and softened, even when you were mad. Then their voice slows. You know the time is almost up. You want to ask more questions. You want them to stay. But they just lean in, as if to say one last thing, thank you. And that's it. The words stop. They're back to normal. A bark, a meow, a tail thump. They stretch like nothing happened. You look at them, and they look at you like always. But now you know. They saw you. They see you still. And maybe that's enough. Someone hands you an envelope. It's sealed, plain, and has your name on the front. Inside is one line, the exact date you will die. No time, no cause, just the day. You don't have to open it. You can toss it in a drawer, burn it, forget it ever existed. But if you do open it, you'll know. No guessing, no maybe, just a fixed point in time that your life will end. Would you want to know? At first, it sounds like a trap. If you know the date, it might hang over you. Every decision would point back to it. You'd count the days, months, years. If it's far off, you might relax too much. Take risks you shouldn't. Delay things that matter. If it's close, you might panic. Every hour would feel too loud, too fast, too short. But some people would want to know. For control, for peace. If you know the date, you can plan. You won't waste time. You won't live under the illusion that life stretches forever. You'll stop pushing things into a future that might never arrive. You'll say what needs to be said. You'll fix what needs fixing. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll stop worrying about things that don't matter. You wake up each morning and know how many days you have left. That changes your pace. Some people speed up. They make lists. They cross off dreams. They book trips, quit jobs, confess secrets. Others slow down. They savor things more. They sit longer. They listen better. They choose small joys over big goals because they know the clock is real. And what about fear? If the date is unknown, death could happen any time. That creates anxiety. You worry about accidents, illnesses, the sharp turn you didn't see coming. If the date is fixed, some of that fear disappears. You know you'll be here tomorrow and the next day, until that final day. Nothing can take you early. You stop flinching. You stop playing it safe. But then that day comes closer. You mark it on the calendar. You count backward. People around you start to notice. You're quieter. You let go of arguments. You laugh in strange places. You cry when you don't expect it. The date lives in your chest. It hums beneath your skin. Do you tell people? Some will. They'll hold a party the night before. They'll call everyone they've ever loved and say goodbye. They'll write letters, record videos, wrap up their story with a neat bow. Others won't say a word. They'll vanish. Let people remember them without the weight of knowing it was coming. You might try to fight it. You think, what if I avoid danger that day? Lock myself inside. Stay in bed, say nothing, touch nothing, move less. But the rules don't change. It's not about avoiding risk, it's about fate. The end comes, no matter what you do. The envelope never lies. Now think about relationships. You meet someone new, you fall in love. They ask about the future. You know the end date. They don't. Do you tell them? Do you let them dream about forever when you know it ends in 4 years? Or 6 months? Do you pull away early before the grief can take root? Or do you stay, knowing the heartbreak is coming? Parents might look at their children differently, not in fear, but in urgency. They'll say, I have 12 more birthdays with you, or I won't see you graduate. Some will hold tighter, some will push their kids to grow faster, to be ready, to remember. And what about the flip side? You meet someone and they know their death date. They tell you. You don't ask for it, but they offer it anyway. 3 years, they say, and I'll be gone. You hear it and something shifts. You start measuring time differently. Every lunch, every conversation, every argument feels heavier. You don't want to waste any of it, but you still do, because you're human. Some people will use the date for profit, insurance, investments, career plans. They'll know how long they have to work, how much they can spend, when to cash out. Others will turn it into ritual. They'll create traditions around last days, pilgrimages, ceremonies, farewells. The date becomes public and people build around it. Governments might get involved, registries, systems. You apply for jobs and employers know how long you'll be around. Maybe you can't serve on juries, or hold office, or sign long contracts. People start making decisions based on your timeline, not your character. You might envy those with longer dates. You'll wonder why theirs is further than yours. What did they do differently? Is it luck, punishment, a test? You'll compare. Even if you know it's pointless, you will. And there's the temptation to chase meaning. You'll want the date to say something. You'll search for patterns, symbols, clues. You'll look at the calendar and try to make it make sense. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just a number, like a page number in a book. It doesn't explain the plot. It just tells you where it ends. There will be people who refuse to open the envelope. They'll keep it in a drawer or throw it away. Not because they're brave, but because they want to live without the shadow. They'd rather live in ignorance than countdown. They don't want to shape their life around a deadline. You might judge them, or you might understand, because knowing changes everything. Not just how long you live, but how you live. Every decision bends toward that date, even the small ones. What to eat, who to forgive, where to go, who to leave, what to hold. You live differently when the end isn't a mystery. Even if you pretend it doesn't matter, even if you try to ignore it, the truth sits there, silent, waiting. Just one line in an envelope, and you still have to choose. Do you open it or not? You close your eyes at night, and the world fades. But something else begins. You're standing in a place that feels half familiar. You don't question how you got there. You just move, talk, act. You meet people you've never seen before. You know their names, you speak languages you've never learned, you do things that defy gravity, time, reason, and then you wake up. Most mornings, you shrug it off. Just a dream, you think. A trick of the brain. Some leftover thoughts stew from the day before. But what if it's not? What if dreams aren't fiction? What if they're windows, no doors, into other realities? What if every time you sleep, you leave this world and enter another one? One that's just as real. One where you're living a different version of your life. Not metaphorically, literally. You dream you're flying. You feel the wind. You look down and see cities, oceans, mountains. You dream you're late for a test or searching for a room you can't find. In that world, it makes sense. The urgency, the layout. You know the stakes. You wake up sweating, heart racing. Then you forget it. But maybe the version of you in that place doesn't forget. Maybe they wake up too, confused, unsettled, wondering why they suddenly remembered your world. If dreams are alternate realities, then sleep is travel, not rest. Every night, your consciousness disconnects from this body and plugs into another. Not a copy, not a simulation, a real world with real consequences. You live out a scene, then snap back before you can finish it. And when you wake up, all you carry back are fragments. That might explain why dreams feel so strange. Time skips, logic bends, things change shape, people switch identities mid-sentence. Not because the dream is broken, but because your mind can't sync perfectly with the new reality. You're out of place, like a bad phone connection. Pieces drop out. Context lags. But deep down, part of you knows the rules of that world. You act like you belong. Maybe that's why we can't always speak in dreams, or why we know things without learning them. Because the you in that world has lived a full life there. They have friends, habits, memories you've never seen. And for a few hours, you borrow their seat. You might dream you're in a house that doesn't exist here. You know every room, every drawer, the squeaky stair. You're not dreaming it up. You're remembering it, but from the wrong angle. Now imagine those other versions of you. The ones who live in the dream worlds. Maybe they dream about you too. Maybe they lie down in their own beds, close their own eyes, and wake up here. Maybe your life is their dream. You could be someone else's midnight story. You make coffee, walk to work, check your phone. And on the other side, someone watches it all like a movie they don't fully understand. And if they remember, if they keep track, maybe that's déjà vu. Maybe it's not your memory being slow. It's two versions of you syncing up for a second. A small glitch where both realities match and something leaks through. Lucid dreaming could be something more too. Not just awareness, but control. Like hacking into another version of yourself and steering for a while. You break their rhythm. You change their story. You act in ways they wouldn't. And when you wake up, they deal with the mess. You might wonder why the realities are so different. Why some dreams feel like science fiction, or horror, or nonsense. Maybe the other versions of you live in places where physics bends, where creatures evolve differently, where history split and took a strange path. Maybe you're a soldier, a thief, a teacher, a bird, a planet. Maybe time runs backward there. Maybe emotion works like sound. Maybe names don't exist. And maybe some dreams are visits to places between realities. Not full lives, just crossroads. Empty malls, endless hallways. The hotel with too many floors. The classroom where the lesson never starts. Not nightmares, not symbols, just transition zones. Waiting rooms while your consciousness catches up. There are dangers in this idea. If every dream is real, then what you do in them matters. Every argument, every fight, every fall. You might not remember the consequences, but someone does. Some version of you out there now has to live with your choices. And if you stay too long, if you get pulled too deep, maybe you stop coming back. Maybe your body here just sleeps. Shallow breath, closed eyes. Doctors say coma, but your mind is off living a full life somewhere else, unaware that this world is waiting. Some people would chase that. They'd try to sleep more, stay longer, find the dream that feels right, the one that fits better than this one. The job that makes sense, the love that doesn't break, the body that moves the way you want. They drift away from here, slowly, quietly, until they don't come back at all. You might have already done that once. Maybe this is the dream. Maybe the world you call home is just a stopover from something else. Maybe when you fall asleep tonight, the real version of you wakes up and starts their day. And if dreams are real, then death isn't an end. It's just a final shift, a permanent transfer. One last sleep where you don't come back to this version. You wake up somewhere else. You stretch, you blink, you move on. And the world behind you becomes a faded story you tell in your next life. You've had dreams that made you feel more alive than your waking hours. Dreams that made you cry, laugh, fall in love, run for your life. What if those feelings were real because the world was real? What if you were there, fully, not in spirit, but in self? And what if you'll be there again tonight? You walk outside one night and see something strange in the sky. It moves smooth, silent, and too fast to be anything human. The next day they arrive, not with war, not with threats, just a simple message. They've been watching Earth. They've seen the hunger, the heat, the noise, the waste. They offer an escape, a one-way trip to a better planet. Clean air, calm weather, food that grows year-round. No war, no bills, no clocks. But there's a catch. You have to go alone. No family, no friends, no pets, no phone, no letters, no return. You step aboard and you disappear from this world forever. You'd think the question would be easy. If things are bad enough here, you might say yes right away. You imagine leaving behind traffic, deadlines, awkward meetings, rising rent. You picture waking up on a quiet world with soft light, fresh fruit, and no need to prove anything to anyone. It sounds like freedom. But then the real weight hits. You can't bring anyone with you. Not your partner, not your child, not your sibling, not even your closest friend. You can't even call to say you arrived safely. It's not a vacation, it's exile. One with benefits, but still exile. You try to imagine your first day on the new planet. The sky looks different. The air smells like something you can't name. Gravity feels strange under your feet. You're surrounded by quiet, but not peace. You walk alone. You eat alone. You sleep without the hum of a city outside your window or the sound of a voice down the hall. The planet may be better, but it's also empty. You wonder if you'd miss the noise, the mess, the imperfection. Someone arguing in a parking lot, the smell of rain on old pavement, the routine of your grocery store, the ache in your legs after walking too far. You'd miss the things you never thought to love. The aliens promise safety. That matters. Maybe you've lost faith in Earth, in leaders, systems, people. You've seen enough headlines, felt enough fear. You wonder what you're really leaving behind. You look at your life and ask, is this worth staying for? Some days the answer is no. Other days, it's harder to say. Say you're in your 30s, you've built something, a job, a circle of people who know your laugh. You've fought to carve space in a world that doesn't slow down for anyone. Would you throw all that away for a fresh start? Or say you're older. You've seen decades pass. You've lost people, watched your neighborhood change. You know what time takes away. The offer might sound like mercy, a last chapter on your terms. But would you give up your final years with the people who know your stories? Maybe you're young. The world still feels wide open. You haven't done half of what you dreamed. Maybe this new planet feels like a shortcut, a chance to skip the chaos and start somewhere clean. But what happens when you're there and you realize no one knows your name? No one knows who you wanted to become? There's also the question of trust. Do you believe the aliens? They show you images, charts, proof. They let others go first. You watch them disappear into bright light, never to return. They say it's real. They say it's better. But you don't know. You might ask, why just one person? Why not families, groups? They won't say. They only offer the choice to individuals. Maybe it's a test, maybe it's policy, maybe it's something else. You think about the people you'd leave behind. You picture their reactions, shock, grief, maybe anger, maybe relief. They wake up one morning and find your note, or maybe nothing at all, just your absence. Would they understand? Would they think you gave up or found something they couldn't? You might try to tell yourself they'd move on, that people always do. You picture them laughing again years later around a table you're not sitting at, and you try to accept that, but part of you doesn't want to. Part of you wants to be missed. Then you think about time. What if years pass differently on the new planet? What if you live longer, slower? You leave Earth at 30 and wake up in a world where one day here is a year back home. Everyone you knew grows old while you stay the same, or they're already gone by the time you settle in. You miss every wedding, every funeral, every story you were supposed to be part of. But you also picture the other side, a sunrise on a planet with 2 moons, a silent lake with trees that glow in the dark, a day without fear. You plant seeds, watch them grow, eat from your own hands. You sleep without dread. You learn new names for color, taste, shape. Maybe you meet others, humans who chose the same path. Maybe you form new bonds, new traditions. A quiet community of people who once asked the same question and said yes. Still, you wonder if a better planet means a better life. Better conditions don't mean better meaning. A world can give you food and air and safety, but not purpose. Purpose comes from connection, from helping someone else, from being seen. You ask yourself what kind of person you are. Do you run toward peace, even if it costs you everything? Or do you stay in the noise and try to make it bearable? The aliens don't push, they don't explain, they hold out the offer. 1 seat, 1 ticket, 1 chance. Do you take it? You wake up on January 1st and your hands aren't yours. The bed feels strange. Your voice is deeper or higher. Your skin looks different. You stand up and feel the weight shift. Your body has changed because it's not yours anymore, and it won't be for the rest of the year. Every person on the planet swaps bodies once a year. Random. No repeats, no requests, no refunds. You live 12 months in someone else's skin, then do it again the next year. Your mind stays your own, but everything else changes. Face, frame, height, voice, reflexes, eyesight, age, gender. It all resets. No one is surprised. It's always been this way. The world adapted. Clothes are made to stretch, adjust, and fit a wide range of sizes. IDs are digital and follow your consciousness, not your face. Your name stays yours, but the body it belongs to changes constantly. Relationships feel it first. You fall in love with someone, but you only know their voice and mannerisms for 1 year. Next year, they'll have a new laugh, a new walk, a new way of smiling, but they're still them. You learn to connect to what doesn't change, their mind, their choices, their tone when they're tired or kind or angry. You stop saying things like, "I miss your eyes," or "I love your smile," because next year, those parts will belong to someone else. Love gets stripped down to what it really is: recognition, not appearance, not style, not chemistry, just one mind recognizing another. Attraction shifts too. You might wake up in a body you once found beautiful, or one you never imagined yourself in. You learn quickly that what turns you on 1 year might not work the next. People let go of rigid categories. Straight, gay, bi, trans. Labels still matter, but they move with you. You find yourself rethinking what identity means when your body won't hold still. You get used to it. Everyone does. The first few weeks after a swap are awkward. You bump into things. You forget your reach. Your voice sounds strange in your own ears. You relearn how to move, how to stretch, how to sleep. Then it becomes normal. You start to forget what your old body even felt like. Doctors don't ask for family medical history anymore. They ask about your current vessel. You get updates from the swap office: who you were, who you are now, what to watch for, allergies, injuries, medications. Some people get lucky, healthy, strong, fast. Others get tired bodies, bodies with pain. You learn to live in both. Pain teaches empathy fast. You wake up in a body with chronic illness, and suddenly you understand what someone else lives with every day. You walk slower, you notice stairs, you rethink how hard it is to open jars. And then a year later, you might be in a different body, faster, lighter, easier. And you don't forget. You carry the memory of effort, of limits. Empathy grows from that. You stop judging people for how they look or what they can't do. Because next year, it could be you. Maybe it will be you. You've seen life from both sides, so you give more patience. You speak softer, you notice needs before they're said. Parenting changes. You raise a child knowing that someday you might wake up in their body, and they might wake up in yours. Kids grow up with a deeper sense of care. They know what it's like to live in someone else's shoes, literally. The first time a teenager swaps into a body with joint pain or blurred vision, they gain a new kind of maturity. It sticks. Crime gets complicated. Surveillance doesn't help if you can't track someone's body. The law follows the mind, not the face. Prisons work differently. Justice focuses more on rehabilitation than punishment, because bodies don't stay locked up. You can't rely on appearance to identify guilt. You rely on action, evidence, words. Racism still exists, but it loses footing. When everyone can wake up in any body, no one stays in a single category for long. You might spend 1 year in white skin, the next in black, the next in brown or pale or freckled or scarred. Some people still carry bias, but it gets harder to justify, harder to sustain. Because your body today might be the body you once mocked, and the stranger across from you might be someone you loved last year. You start to see people differently. You stop thinking in categories. You think in patterns, the way someone pauses before they speak, the way they look up when they think, the rhythm of their kindness. You stop using bodies as shortcuts to understanding. You look deeper. Religion adapts. Some faiths say the soul is constant and the body is just a vessel. Others rethink the soul entirely. If you change bodies every year, do you still have one identity? Or are you many people stacked on top of each other, like pages in a book? Some people embrace the shift. They love the newness. They try every sport, every dance, every way of dressing. They treat each year like a new chapter. Others feel lost. They miss the comfort of home, of a face that never changes. Therapists help people cope with swap fatigue, help them find stability in the mind, not the mirror. You get better at letting go of vanity, of grudges, of expectations. You stop planning your life around how you look. You focus on what you can do, what you can learn, who you can be. There are still problems. People abuse the system, try to fake their way through someone else's life, try to use a new body to escape past mistakes. But the swap doesn't erase who you are. It just makes it visible in a new way. You can't hide your choices behind your face. You carry them with you, no matter the shape. Each year, people gather on swap day. They write letters to their next body's owner. A simple note: here's what this body's been through. Here's what I've learned. Take care of it. Others write notes for themselves. Don't forget what kindness felt like. Don't forget the heavy days. Don't forget how it felt to be seen. And then they go to sleep and wake up new. You're handed a switch. No flashing lights, no warning signs, just a plain switch and a quiet question. Erase one event from human history. Just one. What's your choice? You can't pick two. You can't undo all of it. You get one moment, one turning point to remove like it never happened. At first, the mind rushes to the biggest tragedies: wars, genocides, disasters that left scars so deep the world still limps from them. You think about Hiroshima. You think about the transatlantic slave trade. You think about the Holocaust, each one massive, each one brutal, each one tied to names and dates and numbers that don't seem real until you sit still and count them slowly, one by one. You have to choose, though, and if you pick the wrong one, you don't get to go back and try again. Say you choose to erase the Holocaust. 6 million Jews murdered, millions more scarred, a whole generation left with silence in their family trees. You flip the switch. It never happened. The camps never opened. The trains never rolled. The war still happens, maybe, but not like that. The world loses the deepest, clearest warning it ever had about where hate can go when no one stops it. Would future generations be more blind to slow-moving horror if they didn't have that example burned into the past? Now pick something else. Say you erase slavery, all of it, from its first chains to its last breath. Not just in America, but globally. You stop the ships before they ever leave the docks. Millions of lives are not stolen. Cultures are not broken. Generations are not born under cruelty. But the world that comes after doesn't have the same cities, the same economies, the same art, the same fight songs. Entire countries look different. The map changes. The rhythm of the last 500 years shifts. Do we know what's lost when we undo what's wrong? Or maybe you go further back. Say you erase colonialism. You stop the first European ships from claiming land that wasn't theirs. You prevent the invasions, the smallpox, the stolen children, the rewritten languages. You let native cultures thrive untouched, but again, the modern world rewires itself. Every power structure we know cracks apart. The language you speak now might never be spoken. The borders you see on a map might not exist. Would that be a better world, or just a different one? You might want to erase a single assassination. Abraham Lincoln, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, Martin Luther King Jr. Take them out, and maybe wars don't start. Maybe peace comes sooner. Maybe justice lives longer, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe someone else steps into the same place with the same speech and the same gun waiting in the crowd. Some people might choose something smaller, not because it's less important, but because it's closer to home. A bomb dropped on a town no one remembers, a lynching that never made the papers, a school shooting that changed a classroom forever. Pain is scalable. You don't have to kill millions to scar the future. There's always the question of consequences. History isn't clean. You erase one thing and everything after it moves. The chain rattles. Maybe you prevent suffering, but maybe you also erase strength. Movements are born from pain. Entire identities form in resistance. If you erase slavery, do you also erase civil rights? If you erase genocide, do you erase global unity? It shouldn't be that way. But history is messy. Sometimes survival teaches more than safety. Still, some events feel like they leave nothing but ruin. No lesson, no rebound, just ash. The Rwandan genocide, the Cambodian killing fields, the atomic bombs, some of these don't ripple with meaning. They just cut. You want to stop them not to shape the future, but to spare the past. But the switch doesn't come with previews. You don't get to see what happens next. You press it and the new timeline locks in. Maybe you try to be clever. You think, what if I erase the invention of nuclear weapons? No arms race, no Cold War, no bombs in briefcases, but maybe no deterrent either. Maybe more wars break out without that threat holding leaders back. Maybe peace exists now, not because we're kind, but because we're scared. Or maybe you erase the assassination of Julius Caesar. You stop the fall of the Roman Republic. But maybe democracy never spreads. Maybe empire wins, but under a new name. Or maybe you erase the birth of a dictator, Stalin, Hitler, Mao. But maybe another rises in their place. Maybe the pain just delays, moves down the line. You sit with the switch. Your finger hovers. The more you think, the heavier it feels. Because erasing one thing never means cleaning the slate. It means replacing a nightmare with an unknown. You won't get applause. No one will remember what you erased. No one will thank you. They'll live in a world that never knew the version you saved them from. Maybe that's enough. You picture the faces that didn't get to grow old. You hear the silence of names unspoken because history crushed them. You look at the world now and ask, what should never have happened? Not what was tragic, not what was cruel, but what was useless, what gave nothing back, what left no light behind. You press the switch, you erase that, and you never know what the world might have been. What if your life wasn't private? Not even a little. What if the world you knew wasn't the whole world at all? Every moment, from your first cry to your last breath, might be under watch. Not by people you know, not even by other humans, but by aliens. Imagine a show, a long-running one. No breaks, no script. It doesn't air here. It streams light years away. Somewhere far in a part of the galaxy we haven't found yet. Beings we can't even picture sit back and watch it all play out. Your choices, your losses, your wins, your boring breakfasts, your loud fights, your private thoughts. They see it all, even the ones you don't say out loud. They don't need cameras, not the kind we know. They use something else, something advanced. They don't install anything. They don't need to be here physically. They tune in like you'd flip through shows on a lazy afternoon. Earth is just one of many channels. And you're one of many stars. You didn't audition, you didn't agree, but you're on the show anyway. Now picture this. You're brushing your teeth. A dull moment. You're half awake. You stare into the mirror, not thinking about much. Somewhere across the stars, an alien laughs. They think it's charming how you hum while you do it. Or maybe they're shocked. Maybe they've never seen anyone foam at the mouth like that. Maybe they rewind it. Maybe they call others in to see. That moment for them is content. You go to work. You hate your job. You fake a smile. You say things like, just another day. To them, this is high drama. They don't have offices. They don't do jobs like we do. Watching you navigate office politics is like watching a tense courtroom scene. Every sigh, every glance, they study it. They discuss it. They follow your story like people here follow soap operas. You date. You break up. You fall in love again. They get invested. They root for some people. They despise others. Your heartbreak makes their screens glow. When you cry alone in the kitchen, they feel it. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they find it curious. They try to understand. What is that clear liquid from your eyes? What's the point of crying when alone? Now think about this. Every time you've done something you thought no one saw, they saw it. Every dance in your bedroom. Every silent scream into a pillow. Every bad decision you made when no one else was looking. You thought those moments were yours. They weren't. They were theirs too. They don't judge the way we do. Not because they're better, but because they don't see life like we do. A mistake to you might be bravery to them. A moment of shame might be comedy, or maybe it's educational. Maybe your story is used to teach young aliens about Earth species. They take notes. They learn from your fears, your hopes, your lies. Now imagine a bad day. You lose your keys, you spill coffee on your shirt, you miss the train. It's nothing huge, but it feels like the world is against you. You feel alone, tired, worn down. Somewhere, that episode airs as a fan favorite. Maybe it's your lowest point. Maybe it's what made someone out there love your arc. Maybe it's what got you more screen time. You feel broken. They see you as real. They don't show ads. They don't break for commercials. Your life runs 24/7. Some aliens watch you in shifts. Others only watch highlight reels. Some follow only your romantic storylines. Some like your angry rants. Some love the quiet parts, the ones you think don't matter. A soft blink before sleep, a hand brushing over old photos, a pause before you speak. You might wonder, why you? Why your life? It's not special. You don't save lives. You don't make big decisions. You're not rich. You don't lead. But that's the point. To them, every life on Earth is a different show. Some are action-packed. Some are romantic. Some are slow and sad. Some are funny in ways we don't even know. You don't need to be important. You just need to be alive. Now consider your habits. The small ones. You always put your left sock on first. You never eat the last fry. You tap the steering wheel twice before turning the key. They notice. They document it. these become known patterns. Observers develop theories. Some think it's superstition, some think it's ritual, some think it's language. You never explained it, you never meant to, but they found meaning. When you sleep, they keep watching. Not just your dreams, not just your body, but the way you twitch, the sounds you make, the way you hold your pillow. They make diagrams, they name positions, they write reports. To you, it's rest. To them, it's field data. Your REM cycle gets discussed in a research pod 14,000 light years away. There are fan groups, dedicated viewers. They collect moments. They trade scenes. They say things like, "Did you see what they did on the subway last Thursday?" They debate you. Some think you're kind. Some think you're selfish. Some think you're a genius. Some think you're just lucky. You don't know any of this. You're just living. You dream of other worlds. You imagine life beyond Earth. That irony isn't lost on them. Some find it touching. Some find it hilarious. You wonder if aliens exist. You ask that out loud sometimes, alone in your room. And out there, an alien pauses their snack and leans in. You're asking about them while they watch you. Every now and then you feel watched, not often. Just a flicker, a chill, a turn of the head. Nothing's there. You shrug it off, but it stays. That feeling. Like you're not alone. You're not wrong. You never were. It's not a ghost. It's not a trick. It's a viewer. Quiet. Far. Always there. They don't interfere. That's the rule. They watch. That's all. They don't want to change your story. They don't want to be part of it. They want it raw, real, unswayed. They've had centuries of staged dramas. They crave truth now, even if it's slow, even if it hurts. Your life, with all its flaws, is better than fiction. If you knew, you might act different. You might play up certain moments, you might hide others, but that would ruin it. They'd lose interest. The show only works when you don't know. The moment you know, the magic breaks. So they hide, they observe, they wait. Maybe you're not the main character. Maybe you're just part of someone else's show. A walk-on role, a side character, a one-episode wonder. But for that moment, to someone out there, you mattered most. Your laugh, your silence, your choices. They made someone lean closer. And still, the show goes on. Would you rather know everything or feel nothing? At first, it might seem like a strange comparison. Knowledge and emotion don't usually go in the same category. One belongs to the mind, the other to the heart. But when you look closer, they carry weight in different ways. And choosing between them isn't just about what you want to gain, it's about what you're willing to lose. Knowing everything sounds powerful. If you knew every detail, every answer, every reason, nothing could surprise you. You'd understand quantum mechanics and why your friends stopped texting you. You'd know how to fix your car and how every human conflict started. You'd know what people think when they look at you and what they say when you leave the room. You'd know your future and theirs. You'd know when you'll die and how. Imagine waking up one day with all of that in your head. No gaps, no guessing, no doubt. The world becomes clear. But what does clarity feel like when you already know what the day holds? Most of life runs on not knowing. We ask questions, take chances, make mistakes, and feel our way forward. If you remove all the uncertainty, you remove the process. And that's where a lot of the meaning lives. For example, imagine watching a movie when you already know the entire plot, every line of dialogue, the way it ends. You might still watch it once out of curiosity, but would you go back to it? Would it grip you the same way? Probably not. It's the same with life. If you know every outcome, what's left to chase? Still, there's value in knowing. Say you're a doctor who knows everything about medicine. You never make a wrong call. You diagnose instantly. You treat every patient the right way, first time, every time. You save lives with zero guesswork. That sounds good. No patient would complain. But that same knowledge might make you cold. You wouldn't need to listen to people's stories. You wouldn't need to hold their hand when they're scared, because you'd already know how things end for them. You might forget they still don't know, that they still feel fear. Now think about the opposite, feeling nothing. You wake up, the sun is out, you don't feel joy. Your dog greets you at the door. You don't feel love, you lose your job. You don't feel panic or sadness. You see a painting, hear a song, meet a friend after years apart. Still nothing. No spark, no tug in the chest, no sense of beauty or loss or warmth. You function, but you don't feel. There are people who live close to this, not by choice, Depression can feel like this. Some trauma survivors describe this state too. It's not peace, it's numbness. You still move through the world, but it doesn't touch you. That might sound easier on bad days, but it flattens everything. You can't turn off pain without also turning off joy. Now put this into a scenario. Imagine someone dies, someone close. If you know everything, you understand the exact biology of their death, the causes, the timeline, the long-term consequences. You can recite the history of every cell that failed. You can even track the ripple effect of their absence. But it doesn't stop the ache. Knowledge doesn't patch the hole. If you feel nothing, the loss bounces off you. You don't cry, you don't miss them, you don't wrestle with grief. It sounds painless, but it also means they meant nothing to you. No memories warm you, no presence lingers. You don't reach for them, they're just gone and it doesn't matter. That's not strength. That's emptiness. Now, what about love? Love needs feeling. It also needs not knowing. You don't love someone because you've calculated their worth and verified their loyalty. You love because of something less logical: chemistry, connection, shared silence. If you knew everything about them before the first date, their flaws, their future mistakes, the day they'll leave you, would you still fall for them? Maybe, but it wouldn't feel the same. Part of love is the risk. If you felt nothing, love becomes a theory. You could recognize the signs, you could say the right words, but you wouldn't mean them. You'd go through the motions because that's what people do. But inside, no pull, no flutter, no loss of breath when they look at you a certain way. You'd say, "I love you," and not feel a thing. Even in pain, feeling reminds you you're alive. A scraped knee, a broken heart, a wave of anxiety. None of it feels good, but it means your system works. You register your environment, you respond, you care. If you cut that off, you don't just dodge sadness, you dodge meaning. And that's the trade-off. With all knowledge, you lose the unknown. With no feeling, you lose the experience. Some people chase knowledge because they believe it brings control. If you know enough, you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to make mistakes. But even perfect knowledge can't stop change. The world still turns, people still leave, your body still ages, you still end. Others try to shut down feeling to avoid pain. Pain hurts. So the logic goes, if I stop feeling, I stop hurting. But the brain doesn't filter like that. You don't get to pick which emotions go. It's not a faucet, it's a circuit. You turn off one, you dim the rest. The question really becomes, do you want to live in control or in contact? In control, you're safe. You know the facts. You make smart choices. But you might feel separate, a step removed. Like a scientist behind glass, watching people feel things you no longer remember. In contact, you're vulnerable. You hurt, you get it wrong. But you also laugh, you crave, you connect. You stand in a crowded room and feel the music hit your chest. You look at someone across the table and realize they matter. You hold a child and feel your chest tighten with something you can't name, only hold. You can't have both, at least not completely. To feel deeply, you need uncertainty. To know fully, you have to step back. So what do you choose? To know all or to feel none? The answer depends on what you believe matters more, understanding life or living it. If morality was decided by votes, would anything still be truly right or wrong? Most people grow up learning that some things are right and others are wrong. Hitting someone is wrong. Helping someone is right. Lying is wrong. Telling the truth is right. These ideas feel fixed. But what if they weren't? What if the only thing that made something moral was how many people voted for it? That changes the picture. Morality stops being a rule book and becomes a poll. In a democracy, votes decide what laws get passed, who holds power, and how resources are used. The basic idea is that people together shape the rules they live by. But democracy doesn't always lead to what's fair or kind. Sometimes it leads to what's popular. And popular doesn't always mean right. Imagine a town where 60% of people believe that one religion is better than the others. They vote to give that religion special rights. More money, more space, more influence in schools. The other 40% lose out. They can't stop it because the vote passed. That decision was democratic, but was it moral? Now take a bigger example. Slavery once had support in many countries. Landowners voted, lawmakers voted, courts agreed. The system stayed in place because the people in power approved it. But approval didn't make it moral. Even while it stood, people knew it was cruel. those who were enslaved knew it. Some of those who benefited from it knew it too, even if they stayed silent. So if morality comes down to votes, it becomes fluid. It shifts with opinions, power, and fear. And that raises the question, does morality mean anything without stability? Let's say there's a society of 10 people. 9 of them vote that the 10th person should give up all their belongings for the good of the group. The 10th disagrees, but gets outvoted. The group takes everything. By the numbers, the vote passes. But what does that say about fairness? If morality is just what most people agree on, the 10th person's rights no longer count. Now flip the numbers. Say the 10 people vote that everyone keeps their own belongings. The vote passes. The 10th person, who has nothing, gets no help. Again, the vote is fair by the process. But is it fair by the result? This is the problem with making morality a group decision. The group can be wrong. History proves that. At different times and in different places, people voted to exclude women from education, to criminalize love between same-sex partners, to segregate public spaces by race. The laws changed, the votes changed, but the harm stayed the same until someone questioned the system. If morality is decided by the majority, then the minority always loses unless they convince the majority to care. And that often takes time, sometimes too much time for the people being hurt. Think about this on a personal level. If you were raised in a community that said stealing food to feed your child was wrong, you might believe that until you're the one with a hungry child and no money. Then, stealing might feel necessary. If everyone around you votes that your action is immoral, does that mean it is? Or are they just removed from your need? Morality set by votes also becomes a mirror of the culture that casts them. In one country, people vote that euthanasia should be legal for those who suffer. In another, they vote that life must be preserved no matter the pain. In one, people vote that women can choose abortion. In another, they vote to ban it. The result is a patchwork of moral maps, each one shaped by place, time, and emotion. If you move across a border, right becomes wrong. If the political climate shifts, yesterday's good becomes today's crime. If morality depends on votes, then right and wrong become unstable. Not because the people are cruel, but because people change. Now imagine a world where the internet speeds up this process. People vote on moral questions through social media. Public opinion spreads fast. One scandal flips the vote. A viral video becomes the new rule. In this kind of world, morality would swing wildly. One moment people call for forgiveness, the next they want punishment. The crowd decides. You either keep up or get left behind. This doesn't mean democracy is bad. It's still one of the best tools for building fair systems. But using democracy to settle morality is risky. It assumes that truth lies in numbers, that what most people want must be good, and that leaves no room for conscience. Think of whistleblowers. Often, one person sees something wrong and speaks up. At first, they stand alone. The public may vote to ignore them. They may lose their job or face threats. But over time, their view may shift the majority. They were right before the votes caught up. If morality followed democracy, they would have been wrong until enough people agreed. So where does that leave us? It shows that morality needs something outside of votes, something slower, deeper, harder to sway. It needs principles. Those don't always come from the group. Sometimes they come from experience, reflection, or pain. Sometimes they come from religion or philosophy. Other times they rise from empathy. You can't vote empathy into existence. You feel it or you don't. And often, empathy tells you something that goes against the group. Imagine a man in a war-torn country. He shelters a stranger, even though the law says not to. His neighbors vote to punish him, but he sees the stranger's fear. He acts not because it's popular, but because it's human. If the vote says he was wrong, does that erase his morality, or does it expose the failure of the vote? This is the risk when morality follows popularity. It rewards the strong, the loud, the many. It leaves the quiet ones behind. It allows harm as long as the numbers agree. You can't trust votes to carry the full weight of right and wrong. You can't build morality on shifting sand. You can use votes to decide laws. But laws are not always moral. They're a tool, not a compass. Real morality is the voice that speaks when no one else will. It's the act that makes sense even when it costs you. It's the quiet answer you give yourself when no one is watching and there's nothing to gain. If morality becomes a democracy, it risks becoming a popularity contest. And the truth doesn't always win those. What if people physically changed appearance based on their emotions? Not just a flushed face from anger or red eyes from crying. Imagine your skin tone shifts when you feel shame. Your hair stiffens with fear. Your eyes lose color when you're sad. The changes aren't subtle. They're visible to anyone who looks at you. In that world, you can't hide how you feel. You can't fake a smile in a job interview if your face turns gray when you're nervous. You can't tell your partner you're fine if your cheeks turn blue every time you feel neglected. Your emotions live on the surface. People don't need to guess how you feel. They see it every time. This would change how people interact. It might end small talk. You wouldn't need to ask someone how they're doing if their face already answers. The man at the coffee shop whose skin goes pale with stress wouldn't need to say he's having a rough day. You'd know. The woman who always says she's fine after a breakup would show violet skin, the color of heartbreak. Her friends wouldn't accept her words. They'd respond to what they see. Lying becomes difficult. A politician who says, "I care deeply about this issue," might show no change if they feel nothing. A negotiator who claims to be calm might betray himself if his face shifts with hidden anger. You could train your voice and body to appear composed, but you can't control your face if it responds directly to emotion. In courtrooms, juries would look not only at facts, but at faces. A witness says they're telling the truth, but their face turns murky with fear. The defense says it proves guilt. The witness says they're scared because the courtroom reminds them of trauma. Who decides what the change means, and how reliable is it? In classrooms, teachers would see who is confused before hands go up. A student's skin turns dull with frustration as the math problem grows harder. The teacher steps in. The student doesn't need to explain. They don't need to feel embarrassed for not understanding, unless embarrassment shows too. Maybe it does. Maybe the student's ears turn pink with shame. Then it gets more complicated. Romantic relationships would shift too. The early stages of dating often involve holding back. People reveal themselves slowly. You don't say "I love you" on the first date. You don't admit jealousy. You don't express fear of losing someone too soon. But if emotion shows on your face, you don't have a choice. You sit across from someone at dinner and your features soften, your eyes glow, your skin brightens in that telltale way that signals desire or affection. You give yourself away. That might sound pure, honest love, open from the start, but it also removes the freedom to pace yourself. You can't protect your feelings if your body shows them before your mind can process them. Some people might avoid dating altogether to avoid exposure. Others might chase the thrill of reading people instantly. Friendships could either grow deeper or fall apart faster. You visit a friend and they say they're happy to see you, but their appearance says otherwise. Maybe their color's dull. Maybe their expression hardens even when their mouth smiles. You ask, but they deflect. Still, you know. The proof is on their skin. Do you confront them? Do you press? Or do you pretend not to notice because the truth makes things harder? Now picture a workplace. Your boss says the team is doing well, but her face shows pressure. Her lips tighten, her features sag with worry. The office senses her stress, even if she speaks calmly. Some employees might work harder, thinking they need to help. Others might panic. The honesty could help with transparency, or it could create more anxiety. No one gets to compartmentalize. Everyone sees everything. Children who haven't yet learned to hide how they feel would have no way to lie at all. A child caught in a lie would show guilt before they confess. A child teased at school would show fear before they speak up. This might help protect kids. Teachers and parents could spot emotions early and step in before things get worse. But it might also put pressure on children to control feelings they don't yet understand. Now consider crime. A person walking down the street with a face flushed from adrenaline and a body stiff with rage could be flagged by others as dangerous, even if they haven't done anything. The body becomes evidence of intent, even without action. That creates problems. Not every intense emotion leads to harm, but if society starts treating emotional displays as threats, people could be punished for feelings instead of choices. What about privacy? In this world, privacy shrinks. You might close your mouth, turn away, stay quiet, but your appearance gives you away. In an argument, you can't pretend you're not hurt. In a group setting, you can't fake enthusiasm. Your face tells a story you didn't agree to share. That might make honesty more common, or it might make isolation more common. Some might try to avoid the problem altogether. Wear masks, stay home, use technology to dull or disguise emotion. If the change is biological, maybe people start searching for ways to block it. Pills that flatten feeling, creams that hide the shift, or maybe fashion adapts. People wear full-body suits, not for style, but for self-defense. The beauty industry would change overnight. In a world where your appearance shifts with emotion, people might stop chasing perfection and start chasing emotional control. Therapists would be in high demand, not to help you understand your feelings, but to help you manage how they appear. But the real question is how this would affect trust. On one hand, trust might deepen. You see someone's joy. It shows, pure and undeniable. That's powerful. You see their grief. You don't need words. You can sit beside them in silence, knowing what they feel without asking. But trust could also erode. If someone's appearance doesn't shift when you expect it to, you might doubt them. You might think they don't care, even if they do. Misunderstandings could grow. Maybe your partner doesn't look hurt when you snap at them. You think they're fine, but they've just learned to live with pain in silence. Their emotional signal no longer registers because the body's response burned out. Or maybe they do show it, but in a way that looks like something else. Grief might look like anger. Fear might look like boredom. Not all signals are clear. In that world, some would learn to read the signs well. Others would misread them. People might judge based on color, texture, or shift without asking for context. That's already a problem with emotionless faces. It wouldn't vanish here. It might get worse. If your face told the truth about how you feel, every hour of every day, you'd gain honesty, but you'd lose shelter. And that's not a simple trade. Not everyone wants to be known. Not all feelings are ready for the surface. Some emotions need time, others need protection. Without that space, life gets louder, but not always clearer. If every lie you ever told appeared on your skin as text, what would people see? They wouldn't see vague symbols or poetic quotes. They'd see your actual words as you said them. The lie you told your mother about where you were last night, the excuse you gave to skip work, the fake compliment you gave at a wedding, the time you said, "I'm fine," when you weren't. Each one inked onto your body, clear as day. The lies could show up anywhere, across your arms, on your back, curled around your neck. Maybe your chest gets crowded first, the place closest to your heart. Maybe your hands, the things that build and break, carry the short, easy lies. I'm almost there. I didn't get the message. It wasn't that expensive. Small, common things, but still lies. Bigger lies take up more space. Maybe your stomach carries the ones you told in fear. I love you when you didn't. I forgive you when you didn't. I believe you when you knew you didn't. The lies you told to keep someone around, or to push someone away. The ones you told to avoid pain, or cause it. Some people would be nearly blank. That doesn't mean they're saints. Maybe they don't talk much. Maybe they lie by omission, staying silent when the truth is needed. If silence doesn't count, they stay unmarked. But if silence is also a lie, then no one stays clean. Others would be covered head to toe. Not because they're evil, because they talk more. Because they comfort people. Because they navigate hard jobs, sales, politics, diplomacy, even medicine. "It's gonna be okay" might be the most common tattoo in the world. You say it because someone needs hope. You say it even when you're not sure. But if it's not true, it goes on your skin. Children would start blank. That wouldn't last. A 5-year-old breaks a vase and says, "I didn't do it." The words wrap around a small wrist. Their parents say, "It's okay, it happens," even though they're furious. The words land across their palm. The first lies come fast and simple. Now imagine walking into a room full of people. Shirts off, sleeves rolled up. You see their lies like badges, some funny, some painful, some confusing. I read the terms and conditions. I never think about her anymore. You were the only one. I'm not scared. The body becomes a confession booth. Dating changes. You meet someone new. You like them. Before you get close, you read their skin. You see, "I cheated once, it meant nothing." You see, "I'm over my ex," across their shoulder. You see, "I want something serious," in tiny print under their collarbone, and you wonder if that was said to someone else years ago. You look at your own arms. You see, I'm just tired. When you were actually depressed. I don't mind when you did. I'll call you tomorrow when you knew you wouldn't. None of them felt huge when you said them. But here they are, permanent. Workplaces get tense. Your boss says, this isn't personal. You glance at the ink along their jaw. It's personal. A coworker tells you, that wasn't my mistake. Their neck says, I messed up but won't admit it. You start reading everyone before you trust them. But they read you too. What happens when a surgeon says, this procedure has no risks, and their skin disagrees? Or a lawyer says, this contract is solid, but their arm shows they're going to break it. What happens to trust when you can't hide behind tone or confidence? Some people would try to cover up. Wear long sleeves year-round, heavy makeup, gloves, hats. But the more you cover, the more people assume you're hiding something serious. He says it's a skin condition, you hear, but maybe he just lied a lot. Covering becomes its own kind of confession. Others might go the other way, proud of their lies. They stand shirtless, tattooed with I told him I loved him, and I never meant it. They treat it like armor. They say, at least I don't lie about lying. In some circles, that becomes its own kind of honesty. Then there's the group who can't handle it. Not because they're worse than anyone else, but because they've lived more, seen more, had to lie more. Immigrants hiding their status, abuse victims protecting themselves, people caught in systems that punish the truth. Their skin fills up not from malice, but from survival. You judge their words without knowing their story. Religious leaders, therapists, teachers, all would have their words on display. I'll pray for you. You're making progress. You're so talented. Some meant it, some didn't. Can their work survive that kind of exposure? Can faith or healing or learning grow in a place where every misstep becomes public? Now think about self-lies, the ones we say only to ourselves. If those show too, the game changes. I'm over it. I'm not lonely. I don't need help. If those appear in the mirror each morning, no one escapes. The strongest people carry the deepest marks. Not because they fail, but because they've tried to carry pain without dropping it. What does redemption look like in this world? You can't erase the words. You can't get a clean slate. Maybe they fade with time. Maybe they stay, but you add to them. You tattoo truth beside the lies. I said I didn't care, next to I cried for 3 days. I lied to protect her, next to I should have told the truth sooner. The skin becomes a timeline, not just of lies, but of growth. Not all lies are equal. That matters. The weight of I don't love you anymore is not the same as I forgot to call. But in this world, they all show. The difference is in how people read them. Context becomes currency. Judgment softens, or it hardens. Depends on the crowd. Some lies might start to disappear. The easy ones, the lazy ones. You think twice before saying, I'll be there in 5 minutes, if you're still in the shower. You avoid false promises. You let yourself say, I don't know, instead of guessing. Language might get more careful, not because people are more honest, but because the cost of lying is now public. But some lies stay, because people still need them. The friend dying in a hospital bed asks, will it hurt? You say no. The child asks, is the monster real? You say, of course not. These lies go on your skin like all the others, but people might see them and nod. Some lies, they understand. In a world where every lie is inked into your body, the question stops being, have you lied? The answer is always yes. The real question becomes, what did you lie about and why? And that answer says more than the tattoos ever could. What if you could see 10 seconds into the future, but only once a day? Not a full minute. Not a glimpse of next week or even the next hour. Just 10 seconds. One stretch of time, and then it's gone until tomorrow. You can choose when to use it. Morning, night, during a conversation, crossing the street, playing a game of poker. But once you've used it, that's it. You don't get it back until the next day. No do-overs. No stacking it up for later. At first glance, 10 seconds doesn't seem like much. What can you really do with it? It's barely enough time to tie a shoe. You might not think it would matter, but it does. Because in the right moment, 10 seconds is everything. Think about driving. You're on the highway, speed limits ignored. A car swerves ahead, you don't know why. Brake lights flash. In real time, you're reacting, guessing. But if you had your 10 seconds, you could see what's about to happen. If that car crashes, if a truck clips the lane, if you make it through, you could avoid it. You don't need a full vision of the day. You just need enough time to steer. Now imagine a fight, not with fists, words, maybe with your partner or your boss. The argument is heating up. Voices rise. You're about to say something you can't take back. You could use your 10 seconds here. You see how your words land, how their face changes, how the room falls quiet. You decide to stop yourself, or you say it anyway. But now you know what comes next. That small preview lets you choose with clarity. Some people would save it for danger. They'd only use it in high-risk moments, walking alone at night, handling weapons, stepping into traffic. For them, it's a shield. They never know when something might go wrong, so they keep it ready. Others would burn it early out of curiosity. You're bored at work, so you use it to see how the next 10 seconds of your email will go. You get nothing useful. Then the rest of the day goes sideways, and you've already spent your shot. This creates a strange tension. Every day you wake up with that one small power. You carry it in your pocket like a match. Strike it, and it's gone. So you start to ask yourself, when is the moment? You look at the world with suspicion. Is now the time? Should I wait? What if I miss it? You can't see past the 10 seconds, and you can't see them unless you use it. It's a one-time window, not a rewind, not a loop. You see it, then it happens. Every time you hold off, you wonder what you missed. Every time you use it, you wonder if the real danger was later. It starts to mess with your mind. You question your instincts more. You pause more often. You second-guess less in some ways, but more in others. You become more aware of cause and effect. You think smaller. 10 seconds isn't about the big plan. It's about the next move. You stop looking at the mountain and start looking at the next rock. In sports, this would be huge. You're in the final seconds of a basketball game. You've got the ball. Use your 10 seconds. You see the defender's move, the shot arc, the result. You score. You win. Or maybe you use it on defense. You see the shot coming and block it. Coaches would try to time it perfectly. Athletes would use it on plays that matter most. In surgery, a 10-second preview could be the difference between a clean cut and a fatal mistake. A surgeon could peek ahead, check the pulse, see the bleed, make the right move, but they can only do it once. So when do they use it? On the first incision? The final suture? Or when the rhythm breaks? Some people might never use it. The anxiety of choosing the wrong 10 seconds would keep them frozen. They'd rather hold the power than spend it poorly. They'd go to sleep each night with their moment unused, unsure if that meant they were careful or just scared. Others would get addicted to it. They'd wake up and look for ways to use it, over and over, in lines at the bank, at crosswalks, on dates. If I say this, will she laugh? If I touch his arm, does he pull away? They'd want to control outcomes. But 10 seconds doesn't give you control. It gives you a clue. And clues don't guarantee success. People would start comparing strategies. Do you use it in the morning or wait for night? Is it better to spend it on yourself or on others? Some would use it selfishly. Others would use it to help. You could jump in front of someone about to get hit by a car only because your 10-second vision warned you. You save a life, but no one knows why you move so fast. You can't explain it without giving yourself away. Then there are the dark uses. You could rob someone, cheat, lie. You ask a question, see their reaction. If they buy your story, you keep going. If not, you back off. You learn what words work. You avoid the slap, the gunshot, the consequence. One step ahead, always. If this power became public, if many people had it, it would change how we trust. How do you play poker if your opponent sees your bluff? How do you run a campaign if your rival sees how their speech lands before they give it? Do we all cancel each other out? Or does the timing still matter? In that kind of world, hesitation becomes strategy. Everyone waits. No one wants to be first. Everyone holds their 10 seconds like a weapon, not to use, but to threaten. I haven't used mine yet becomes a sentence full of weight. But if it's just you, only you with the ability, then life gets lonely in a specific way. You see more than others, just a sliver, but enough. You live slightly ahead. You dodge things others crash into. You hold back when others speak. You choose differently because you've seen the near future, even if only for a moment. And eventually you realize something. It's not about control, it's about timing. 10 seconds isn't long enough to change your life, but it's just long enough to change your next step. And sometimes, that's all you need. If you could start life over but lose all the people you love, would you do it? You'd wake up as a child again. Clean slate. No debt, no mistakes, no regrets pinned to your back. You'd get another shot at everything: school, work, choices. But everyone you care about now would be gone. Not dead, just erased from your story. Parents, partners, children, friends, they'd never know you. You'd never meet again. In this new life, they wouldn't exist to you. You'd have to build everything alone, from scratch, without them. It sounds like freedom. You could fix what went wrong the first time. You could study harder, avoid bad relationships, take more risks, skip the pain. You could save yourself years of trial and error. You could live smarter, smoother, cleaner. But the price is heavy. The people you built your life around are the cost. The question is, are you running toward a better version of yourself, or are you just running away? Think about what you lose. Not just the people, but the history between you. The way your mother held your hand on your first day of school. The friend who stayed on the phone when your world was falling apart. The partner who stood with you when you had nothing. The kid who made you laugh on a day you thought you couldn't. In the new life, those memories wouldn't exist. Maybe you'd find new people, maybe you wouldn't. There's no guarantee, and even if you did, they wouldn't be the same. Different stories, different versions of love. You'd never get the old ones back. Some people might still say yes, not because they don't care about the people in their life, but because they carry so much pain. They think of every missed chance, every regret, every loss they want to undo. They imagine a version of themselves who didn't make that call, didn't stay too long, didn't stay silent, didn't give up. They think they could be better, happier, safer. But that version of life is still just a guess. The clean slate feels promising only when the current one feels too stained to save. And even then, starting over doesn't mean getting it right. It means doing it all again, without the anchors you had the first time. Say you take the offer. You're 5 years old again. You know some things, math, history, how to fake a smile, but you're surrounded by strangers. No one knows who you were. No one loves you yet. You have to build new bonds, and you don't get to choose who enters your life. You can't recreate your old support system. You don't get to go looking for your brother, your best friend, or your wife. They don't exist in this new story. You carry knowledge, but not connection. You sit at birthday parties and feel the silence between laughs. You graduate from college, and there's no one in the crowd who knows how far you've come. You succeed, but you celebrate alone. You fail, and no one reaches for you the way they once did. It's easy to say you trade people for peace until you realize peace feels empty without someone to share it with. Maybe you try to convince yourself that love can come again, that you'll find new people, build new bonds. You probably would, but they'd be different, and they wouldn't replace what you lost. Because love doesn't copy and paste. It grows in a specific soil, in a specific time. Once that ground is gone, so is the version of love that lived there. Now flip the perspective. Think of the people who love you, the ones who would ache if you vanished. They wouldn't remember you either. They'd move through life without the mark you left. Your child wouldn't remember the bedtime stories. Your partner wouldn't remember the way you held their grief. Your friends wouldn't carry your voice in their heads. You'd be a ghost that never existed. Would you be okay knowing you left no trace behind? Some people would. Not out of cruelty, out of despair. They feel like their presence hasn't helped anyone, that they've caused more harm than good, that starting over, even at the cost of their loved ones, is the only way to be better. But that belief often grows in the dark. It ignores the moments where love was enough, where your presence mattered, even if the world didn't say it loudly. You might not remember every good thing you've done, but someone else does. Someone remembers the day you showed up when no one else did. In the restart, those moments vanish. You can't make them again, not the same way, not with the same people. There's also the question of identity. Who are you without your relationships? Strip away every bond, every memory, every shared laugh and shared silence. What's left? You can rebuild skills, relearn habits, but the version of you shaped by love, by holding and being held, won't come back. You'd be a person with knowledge, but no shared past, a person walking forward, but without footsteps behind. That kind of restart doesn't just reset your life, it rewrites it. Say you make it to old age in this second life. You've done well, you've made money, stayed healthy, avoided mistakes, but there's a photo on the table of a family you met after the reset. Nice people, kind people, but they didn't raise you. They didn't cry with you. They didn't know you when you were scared. They only know the version of you that came after. You stare at the picture and feel something missing. You can't name it because it's gone. But it was once there. A mother's voice, a brother's laugh, a partner's arms, a child's smile. The things that made your first life matter. Maybe it's not about whether you could build something better. Maybe it's about whether you'd want to without the people who taught you how to love in the first place. What if the internet shut down forever? Would society collapse or reset? It doesn't go down for a few minutes or a day. It's not a glitch or a cyber attack you can fix. It's permanent. One morning you wake up and there's no signal, no Wi-Fi, no data, no websites, no emails, no apps that rely on the cloud. The system that connected almost everything, business, government, education, entertainment, relationships, just disappears. At first, people think it's temporary. They restart routers. They check their phones, some try switching providers, but nothing works. The outage spreads across countries. Every device is silent. Tech support lines are jammed. News outlets can't update. Social media freezes. Slowly, people realize this isn't a pause. This is the end. The first few days are chaos. Not because people can't post selfies or stream shows, but because they can't do the basics. Banks can't access accounts. Stores can't process card payments. Supply chains freeze because inventory systems rely on online databases. Hospitals can't access patient records stored in cloud systems. Flights are grounded. Traffic lights in some cities stop working because they depend on remote controls. People can't check the weather or get directions. They can't message loved ones across the country. Cash becomes king again, but most people don't carry it. Some don't even have a way to get it. ATMs still work for now, but they rely on centralized networks. When those go down, banks lock their doors. People try to call each other, but the phone lines are overloaded. Apps like WhatsApp, iMessage, or Signal are dead. People go back to texting, but even those networks strain. Businesses shut down, not because they want to, but because they can't operate. Remote work ends overnight. Offices that rely on cloud-based tools can't access anything. HR platforms disappear. Meetings vanish. Job applications stop. No LinkedIn, no hiring portals, no way to run payroll. For some, this means unemployment within a week. They can't clock in. Their companies can't pay them. It doesn't matter that they're willing to work. The infrastructure is gone. Students stop attending online classes. Teachers can't send assignments. Universities lose access to their own databases. Research slows. Libraries become important again, but they're not ready for the flood of people looking for information. Bookstores see long lines. People buy maps, dictionaries, encyclopedias. Supplies run low fast. The news becomes rumor. No one can refresh their feed. No one can check sources. People rely on word of mouth, local radio, or printed papers if they still exist in their area. Journalists go back to typewriters, not out of nostalgia, but necessity. Editors stop expecting instant updates. Deadlines stretch longer. The news cycle slows down. But panic doesn't. Supermarkets are hit hard. Without digital systems to track deliveries or scan items, many shut down. The ones that stay open rely on notebooks and handwritten receipts. Some use calculators. Others guess. Long lines form, fights break out, people hoard what they can. Security becomes a bigger issue than inventory. Governments try to keep order. They go on television to reassure people, but even those broadcasts don't reach everyone. Many don't have antennas. They rely on streaming or apps. In some countries, the government was already viewed with suspicion. Now, without a way to communicate at scale, the gap widens. Some communities ignore official voices. Others make up their own. Conspiracy theories thrive. There's no easy way to fact-check anymore. People start organizing locally. Neighborhoods meet in person. Churches, community centers, and schools become hubs. Notice boards go up. Paper flyers make a comeback. People write down announcements. If someone has a working landline, they become a local resource. Stores start using ledgers again. Credit is tracked with pen and paper. Some trade goods instead of money. Farmers markets expand. People with practical skills, plumbers, carpenters, tailors, mechanics, become essential. They were always important, but now they're in the spotlight. Their work isn't digital. It still gets done. In wealthier cities, some people can adapt faster. They have generators, they stockpiled tools. They were already thinking about sustainability. But even they struggle without the digital glue that held systems together. They have food, but no way to pay workers. They have supplies, but no way to move them efficiently. Younger generations feel the shift most. Teenagers who grew up online lose entire parts of their identity. Their friends lived in group chats, games, and DMs. Now those spaces are gone. Some feel relieved, freed from the pressure of constant connection. Others feel lost. They don't know how to connect face-to-face. Some withdraw. Others rebuild social circles the old way, hanging out in real life, forming clubs, passing notes. Older generations adapt in different ways. Many remember how to live without the internet. They teach younger people how to use maps, balance checkbooks, sew clothes, grow food. Skills that once seemed outdated become critical. The economy suffers. Companies go under. Stocks freeze because the markets themselves can't operate. Global trade slows to a crawl. Some countries sink into recession. Others go into full collapse. But not everywhere. In rural areas where people never relied much on tech, life changes less. They keep growing food, raising livestock, and fixing what breaks. Their local economies were already based on trust and proximity. Now they become examples of how to function without a screen. Over time, people reset, new systems form. Local networks take shape, not digital, but social. Bartering returns in some places. In others, people create new forms of paper currency. Libraries expand their roles, offering job boards and skill-sharing events. Schools shift to print-based learning. Teachers teach from memory or handwritten notes. Students listen more closely. There's no way to replay a lecture or look it up later. Artists go back to analog tools. Music is made live or recorded on tape. Writers use typewriters or write by hand. Photography shifts to film. People make zines, posters, flyers. Creativity doesn't die, it changes pace. In some ways, people get quieter. The constant noise of updates, alerts, and opinions vanishes. There's less distraction. But that silence also carries weight. You don't know what's happening on the other side of the world. You don't know how your friend in another state is doing. The distance becomes real again. Communication slows. Patience becomes necessary. And yet, things don't fall apart completely. People still need each other. They still cook, argue, sing, play, fall in love. They find new ways to share stories, pass along news, and solve problems. They live more locally and listen more closely. The world shrinks, not by choice, but by force. And in that smaller space, some things start to grow again. If you could feel what everyone else feels for one day, what would overwhelm you? You don't get to choose who you feel. You don't get to filter by age, country, belief, or state of mind. The feelings come in all at once, not as ideas or images, but as raw emotion. Fear, love, jealousy, peace, hunger, rage, wonder. You feel them in your chest, your gut, your skin. You feel them before you can name them. It's not a thought exercise, it's a storm. You become a receiver for the entire world's emotional noise. At first, it's just confusion. You feel joy and grief at the same time. You feel hope while sinking into despair. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't need to. You're feeling thousands of things that don't belong to you. A kid in Brazil laughs so hard he can't breathe. You feel that. A man in Syria holds his daughter's body. You feel that too. A woman in Sweden misses her father and doesn't know why. Today hurts more than others. It hits you in the middle of another feeling you can't even place yet. It doesn't stop. The hunger in a refugee camp hits your stomach like a punch. You feel the ache of someone who hasn't eaten in 2 days. At the same time, a couple in a French cafe sips hot chocolate and touches knees under the table. You feel that warmth too. You feel them all layered. Suffering, comfort, loneliness, connection. Your body doesn't know where to place the tension, so it shakes. You feel the terror of someone about to be hurt. Not fear as an idea, but fear as sweat on the palms, heart racing, throat closing. You feel the pain of someone who just lost a child. Not metaphorically, your chest caves in. You feel the shame of a teenager who just got humiliated at school. You feel the silence of an old man who hasn't spoken to anyone in 3 weeks. These aren't stories. You don't see the scenes. You just get the feelings. It's not all darkness. You feel a father's pride when his son walks for the first time. You feel the calm of a woman sitting alone by a lake, untouched by noise. You feel someone's relief when the hospital says, "You're clear." You feel the small thrill of a crush, the pull of a song that means something, the stillness of morning prayer. You feel the start of love in one part of the world and the safe end of it in another, where an old couple holds hands in silence and thinks, "We made it." But even joy in this amount is too much. It's sugar in your veins. There's no space between the emotions. They hit back to back. You don't have time to process. Your own feelings get drowned. You try to hold on to something, anything that feels familiar. But what you feel isn't you. It belongs to strangers. And yet, your body carries it like it's yours. Grief is the loudest. It doesn't shout. It sits heavy. Grief from loss, from things never said, from dreams that died slowly. You feel the quiet grief of a woman who knows her marriage is over but hasn't said it out loud. The bitter grief of a man who wasted years on a job that gave him nothing. The soft grief of a child who doesn't understand why no one hugs him. There's also rage. It burns cold in some places, hot in others. You feel the shaking anger of a girl whose mother just called her worthless. The dull anger of a man stuck in traffic, already late, blaming everyone and no one. The sharp presage of a person betrayed by their closest friend. Rage that has nowhere to go. Rage that builds and poisons everything it touches. You feel guilt. So much guilt. People carry it in silence. It pulses through their day. I should have called her. I wasn't there when he needed me. I lied. I used her. I gave up too soon. It's the kind of emotion that pretends to stay quiet, but in this moment it becomes loud. It shows its true weight, but something else rises through the noise. Emptiness. You feel the numbness of people who feel nothing. Not because they want to, but because they felt too much. The ones who gave up. The ones who say, "I'm tired," and mean it in ways they can't explain. The ones who move through their day on autopilot. Eat, work, sleep, repeat. They aren't dead inside. They're just surviving. You feel the hollow space where their joy used to be. You feel desire, pure and complicated. Some of it is rooted in love. Some of it is dark. Some of it is desperate. You feel the heat between people who shouldn't be touching each other. You feel the hunger to be wanted, to be seen, to be chosen. You feel someone praying, "Please text me back." You feel someone else thinking, "I hope they never find out." Shame hides in strange places. It doesn't always come with a reason. You feel it crawl across someone's back during a job interview. You feel it in a teenager after a panic attack. You feel it in a woman who caught her reflection and didn't like what she saw. Shame doesn't shout. It whispers, and it sticks. You feel loneliness like it's your own skin. People alone in crowds, people lying beside someone who doesn't see them. People scrolling, posting, liking, but feeling unseen. Loneliness isn't loud, it's the long pause after a message goes unread. It's the ache that says, "No one noticed I was quiet today." Hope still gets through. You feel the shaky kind. A man on a bus holding a job application and thinking, "Maybe this one." A girl standing at the edge of the dance floor, working up the nerve. A woman painting after months of not touching a brush. A boy reaching out to his father after a long silence. You feel them trying, even if they don't know why. And laughter. Real laughter. Some of it is wild, some of it is soft. A group of friends in a car. A baby tasting lemon. Two brothers roasting each other over dinner. Laughter cuts through pain like a light. It doesn't fix anything, but it reminds you that something is still alive in the middle of it all. If you felt everything, if you truly opened yourself up to every human emotion for a single day, it wouldn't be a wave. It would be a flood. Not one river, but thousands, pulling in every direction. No room to sort it out, no place to stand. You would cry. You wouldn't know whose tears they are. You would shake with love that isn't yours. You would ache with sorrow from people you'll never meet. You would feel every hand reaching out for something. Connection, safety, comfort, relief. And you'd know in that moment that everyone carries something, that no one's heart is quiet, that underneath the noise, we're all trying to find a way to feel okay. What if no one could ever die, but aging continued infinitely? Your heart keeps beating. Your lungs keep working. No disease ends you. No injury takes you out. You can get hit by a car, fall from a building, catch a virus, and none of it kills you. Your body heals. or at least survives. But the aging never stops. Your cells keep breaking down, your joints keep stiffening, your senses keep fading. You grow old, then older still. You pass the point of 100, then 200, then 500. There is no end, only more time, and with it, more decay. People notice it slowly. At first, it feels like a medical miracle. No one dies. Hospitals discharge patients who should have been gone. Obituaries vanish. Life expectancy becomes a useless number. But as years pass, a pattern emerges. People keep getting older. Wrinkles deepen, bones grow brittle, vision dims, movement slows, but they remain alive, conscious, aware, in pain sometimes, in confusion often. At 150, most people need help walking. By 200, they can barely move. Muscle mass fades to nothing, skin thins, teeth fall out and don't come back, reflexes vanish. But the brain still flickers, enough to know what's happening. Memories blur, then return, then fade again. People live in cycles of forgetting and remembering. They stop forming new memories at some point. But the body continues, lying in beds, sitting in chairs, staring at ceilings, waiting, but not dying. Nursing homes overflow. At first, governments try to build more, then they stop. There's no space, no money, no plan. Families care for relatives who just keep aging. A mother turns 130 while her son is 110. Generations stack in the same house. Great-grandparents outlive their great-grandchildren in age, not in vitality. You walk into a living room and see 4 or 5 people who need help feeding themselves. One of them has been there for 300 years. Jobs change. There's no retirement. How could there be? You never die, so you can't afford to stop working. But eventually the body can't do the work, so you apply for government help. The system collapses under the weight. Food and housing become rationed. Healthcare turns into long-term maintenance. Not to heal, just to keep people functional enough to survive. Because no one can leave. Children keep being born, at least for a while. But every new person adds to the total. Population climbs without the relief of death. Cities swell, then spill over, then choke. Food runs short. Water becomes a fight. The environment breaks down. No one can clear space for the new, because the old still breathe, still blink, still exist. Some people try to stop having children. Others rebel. They want new life, even if the old never ends. Religion splits. Some say this is a blessing, others say it's a punishment. Most can't make sense of it at all. They stop trying. They focus on today, on care, on surviving another year in a body that creaks and cracks and sags but keeps going. Pain becomes common, not always sharp. Sometimes it's dull, lingering, a bad back, weak knees, headaches that never fully leave. The body can't repair itself fast enough anymore, and there's no death to end the discomfort. Doctors try everything: stem cells, artificial limbs, memory drugs. Some things help, nothing cures. Society ages unevenly. The rich buy better care. They move less, eat better, stay sharper longer, but they still age. At 300, their skin is thin paper, their eyes film over, their money buys comfort, not escape. Others turn to machines, brain implants, bodysuits, tech that keeps them moving when their legs no longer work. They become half organic, half mechanical, still aging, still breaking down, but slower. It helps for a while. Some try cryonics, freeze the body, stop the process. It works in theory, but even frozen, the cells age, just slower. When they thaw, the damage is still there. Mental health collapses. Depression becomes common in the elderly, if you can still call them that. At 250, 300, 400, people lose a sense of purpose. They've seen too much, lost too many connections. Forming new bonds gets harder. You outlive everyone you ever knew, even your children, even your grandchildren. You forget their names, then you remember, then you forget again. Social roles shift. Wisdom used to come with age. Now age comes without wisdom. A person at 180 might know less than someone at 30 because their memory broke long ago. Age stops being a measure of insight. It becomes a burden, a number that says nothing about capacity. People live in chairs, in beds, in rooms built for stillness. They stare out windows for decades. Some speak, others don't. Not because they choose silence, but because the body has slowed too far to make words. But they still feel, they still think something. Somewhere inside, thought stirs, but the face doesn't show it. Wars become different. You can't kill an enemy, but you can wound them. You can starve them. You can trap them. The goal becomes immobilization, to crush without ending. Armies carry non-lethal weapons, Nations collapse under the weight of the wounded. Not because they die, but because they never do. Prisons overflow. No sentence ever ends. A man who stole food at 30 is still behind bars at 400, blind and frail, kept alive by tubes. Society argues over justice, but can't find an answer. Release him, or leave him to rot forever? The arts shift. Stories about death fade. There's no mystery to explore. Instead, people write about memory, about endurance, about the weight of time. Novels stretch across centuries. One character aging endlessly, never dying, only watching. Time loses its meaning. Birthdays pass without celebration. What's the point of marking another year when the number grows absurd? People stop counting. They just say, I've been here a while. A long while. Language changes. There are no final moments, no rest in peace. Cemeteries close. Funeral homes become storage spaces. The rituals of death vanish. In their place, rituals of maintenance. Cleaning the skin, adjusting the limbs, turning the body, feeding the mouth. Not out of love always, but out of necessity. Because the body is still here, and it still needs care. Eventually, science tries to stop aging. People volunteer for trials. Some hope for reversal, others for a pause. No one wants to keep sliding downhill. The breakthroughs come too late. They slow the process, but never stop it. At best, they stretch the climb. The decline still arrives. The Earth groans under the weight of its population. Space runs out. Governments enforce movement limits. People live in towers, stacked like files. The oldest live on top, furthest from the ground, where no one wants to climb. They sit alone, watching clouds, forgetting names, still breathing, still waiting. For what? They no longer know. If one person had the power to read everyone's minds, should they be allowed to live? They don't need your permission to read you. They don't have to ask. They don't look at your face or hear your voice. They just know. Your thoughts as they form. Every lie you think but don't say. Every image that flashes before your eyes. Every quiet insult you swallow. Every secret you lock away and never plan to share. They see it all, and they don't forget. The power isn't loud or dramatic. It doesn't glow. It doesn't come with a costume or a warning. It could belong to a teacher, a barista, a stranger on the train. You wouldn't know unless they told you. And if they did tell you, how would you respond? Would you believe them? Would you run? Would you try to hide your thoughts? You couldn't. They'd already know. Some would say they should be protected, watched, maybe, controlled. But others would say they're a threat just by existing. Not because they've done anything wrong, but because they could. They could blackmail a president. They could leak private thoughts to the public. They could ruin marriages, destroy careers, drive people to panic without ever lifting a hand. That kind of power breaks trust. You can't lie around them. You can't edit yourself. You can't keep your mask on. All the little things people do to survive, smiling when they're angry, nodding when they're lost, acting strong when they're falling apart, those things disappear. Around them, you're exposed. Every time. Would society tolerate someone like that? In small towns, they'd be pushed out. It's not personal, someone would say, but it would be. It always is. No one wants to be read like a book they didn't write. In cities, they'd be studied, first in secret, then in labs. Scientists would want to know how it works. Can it be copied? Can it be turned off? Governments would want control. Not because they care about the person, but because they want the access. Intelligence agencies would offer jobs, not optional. Refuse, and you're not a civilian anymore. You're a weapon that slipped out of its box. And if this person said no, if they chose to live a quiet life, that would scare people more. Because if you can't use the power, you want to at least monitor it. Someone who doesn't want to read minds is more dangerous than someone who does, because it means they might read and not tell you. They might hold what they know, use it when they choose, or worse, do nothing at all. Now imagine you're that person. Every room you walk into is loud with thought. Every person you pass sends a message, even if they don't mean to. You try to tune it out. You learn how to ignore some of it, but it's never quiet. A woman across the street wonders what her husband's hiding. A child thinks about a cartoon. A man walks by rehearsing a threat. A teenager spirals with shame. A friend near you smiles, but inside they think, I wish I didn't come today. You don't ask for any of it, you just receive it. You don't sleep well, because even dreams carry thoughts from others. People leak into you. strangers, family, coworkers. You try to love someone, but you can't unhear their passing thoughts, the doubts, the boredom, the quick flinch of comparison. They still love you, but it's messy, and now you know how messy. That makes it harder to stay. Over time, you might start thinking differently. You no longer trust words. You know how often people say the opposite of what they mean. You see what they hide. You see how fragile people are when no one is watching. But you also see the pain they carry. The woman who snaps at the cashier is grieving. The man who cheats is afraid of being alone. The child who lies doesn't want to disappoint his father. These aren't excuses, but they give shape to behavior. When you read minds, you stop asking, why did they do that? You already know. The question becomes, can I live with knowing? Some people would worship you. They'd call you a prophet. Others would want you dead. They'd say no one should hold that kind of insight. Some would say it violates their freedom just to be near you. They're not wrong. If you read minds, you take away privacy just by breathing. You make people feel small. Even if you never act on it, even if you never say a word, you change how people behave by being in the room. So would the world be better without you? That depends on what we believe about knowledge and fear. Some people say truth is always good, but in practice, we build lives around not knowing everything. We need our secrets. We need the chance to grow without being exposed at every step. If a child believes something cruel but doesn't say it, we hope they learn better. But if you read that thought, do you judge them forever? The mind reader sees people mid-process, not at their best, not at their worst, just in motion, always changing. And that's the part no one likes. We want people to be finished, tidy, clear, but they aren't. They stumble, and they cover it up. The mind reader sees all the stumbles. That kind of vision makes everyone feel unsafe. Maybe that's why people would want them gone, not because of what they do, but because of what they reveal. The mirror they hold up is too sharp, no filter, no distance. And yet, what if the mind reader chooses silence? What if they carry all this truth and do nothing with it? They live, day by day, hearing everything and saying nothing. They keep your secrets even when you wouldn't. They walk beside you and let you pretend. They protect you from the truth they can't unhear. Should they still be punished for what they are? Maybe the better question is, do we want a world where no one ever knows what we really think? Or a world where someone always does? There's no clean answer, just the reality of a person who hears you whether you speak or not. A person who didn't ask for this, but lives with it. A person who makes everyone else feel too visible, too vulnerable, too human. And maybe that's the real reason they'd be feared. Not because they're too different, but because they know how similar we all really are. What if reality as you know it is just your own coma dream? You wouldn't know the difference. That's the whole point. Everything around you would feel real, because your brain makes it that way. The chair under you, the taste of coffee, the pull of gravity, the voice of someone you love, the feeling of shame after an argument, all of it crafted inside your own mind. Not fake, not imagined in a weak sense, just internal. A story your brain tells itself to keep you occupied, while the body lies still somewhere else. You wouldn't remember the accident, the illness, the surgery that went wrong. Whatever put you in that bed, that part got buried. Your brain filled the silence with noise. Memory fragments turned to characters, hints of the real world mixed with fiction. And now, years later, however long it's been, you've built a full life inside this dream. Maybe the people in it are real, or versions of real. A nurse from the hospital becomes your neighbor. A voice from the news becomes your boss. A stranger who once walked past your bed becomes your partner. They all feel solid. They all have thoughts, habits, flaws, but none of them are independent. They exist inside the same system that built this world around you. A system with your limits, your fears, your language, your symbols. If you've never seen snow in the real world, maybe it never falls here. Or maybe it does, but it always looks strange. Some things don't line up and you ignore them. The way time folds in on itself. How some people disappear from your life with no explanation. How a building changes shape and you never question it. These glitches feel normal because your brain adjusts. You accept dream logic without knowing it. You fill in blanks. You tell yourself it's just how life works. Maybe you have a job, a house, a a sense of purpose. You move through your days with routines. You feel progress, boredom, frustration, joy. You form bonds, you build history. But underneath it all, nothing changes. Because your real body isn't moving. It's in a hospital bed somewhere. A machine breathes for it. A monitor tracks your heart, and your mind stays busy behind closed eyes. The theory says this is possible. The brain, in trauma, sometimes builds entire realities. Lucid dreams stretched out into years. Time doesn't pass the same way. Minutes out there can feel like months here. In rare cases, people wake from comas and describe long, detailed experiences, whole relationships, whole lives, and then it's gone. A flat line of memory, something real only to them. So what if this is you? What if your sense of self, the core of who you are, is just a placeholder to keep the dream going? You tell yourself you have a past, but you can't remember every year of it. You fill in blanks. You accept what your brain offers. Childhood becomes a slideshow. High school shrinks into symbols, a backpack, a hallway, a locker. College becomes a blur of faces and late nights. Jobs stack up, but details vanish. You live in the now, because the past is mostly suggestion. Hints, not proof. And the future never arrives, not really. It's always just out of reach. Plans that shift, hopes that bend. You dream of vacations, success, peace, but something always delays it. You stay in motion, you stay distracted, because if you stop and stare too long, the edges of the dream start to show. You've probably had those moments. You're alone. The light hits the wall a certain way. A smell catches you off guard. Someone says something that feels too perfect, too scripted. And for a second, the world feels thin, like a set, like something built instead of born. You shake it off, you move on, but the moment stays with you. It's not proof, but it's something. What would it mean if it were true? Would you live differently? Would you take more risks knowing this isn't permanent? Or would you stop trying at all, thinking none of it matters? That depends on what matters to you. Even if this world is imagined, the feelings are not. Pain still feels sharp, love still feels deep, fear still pulls at your chest. If your brain builds this world to protect you or distract you, it has to keep it convincing. And emotion is the most convincing thing it can make. If you kiss someone here and feel warmth, does it matter whether they're real? If you suffer a loss and grieve, does it make the loss any less? Maybe meaning doesn't come from what's real. Maybe it comes from what you choose to feel. Some people say none of this is real, so nothing matters, but it can flip the other way too. None of this is real, so everything matters, because every choice becomes a reflection of your inner world. Every reaction becomes insight. Every mistake is yours to study. You're not moving through someone else's universe. You're sitting inside your own. That kind of responsibility is hard to carry, because it means your fears shape the world around you. Your guilt creates conflict. Your regret builds people who blame you. The angry boss, the distant partner, the friend who left. Maybe none of them are real people. Maybe they're projections of something you can't forgive yourself for. But it also means your care creates softness. Your hope builds new chances. Your love brings people back, not by accident, but because you need them. The same way a dream pulls someone from your memory and gives them a face again. So if this is a coma and this is all in your head, you're still in charge of something. Not of what happens, but of how you meet it. You can't force your way out. You can't wake up by willpower, but you can shape the space you're in. You can choose kindness. You can learn from pain. You can build meaning even if the world around you is made of thought. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. Not to wake up, not to find out if it's real, but to live like it is, even if it isn't. What if the world ended and you were the only one who noticed? No fire, no explosion, no sudden blackout. The sun still rises, the birds still sing, people walk their dogs, drink coffee, answer emails, but something is off. Something underneath it all has stopped working. You feel it before you can explain it. A pressure in the air, a stillness that doesn't belong. You ask someone if they feel it too. They shrug and say they're just tired. You look around and realize they all seem tired, or distracted, or hollow. They move, but not with purpose. They speak, but without weight. They live, but only on the surface. You start testing things. You call your parents. They answer. Their voices sound the same. But when you say, "Do you feel different today?" they say no. They ask if you've been sleeping. You say yes, but the dreams haven't stopped since the day it began. In the dreams, there's no sky, just a black ceiling stretching in every direction. No one else in sight, just you and the echo of your own footsteps. The news doesn't say anything. The channels still run. Same arguments, same smiles, same ads, but the words don't land. You stare at the screen and feel nothing behind it, like watching a stage play with no actors, just mannequins hitting their marks. You look outside and see your neighbor watering his lawn. Every morning, same time, same strokes of the hose. He used to wave, now he doesn't. You try waving first, he pauses, looks through you, then goes back to the hose. At work, the meetings continue. The reports keep coming. You sit in rooms full of people talking about growth, deadlines, projections, but none of it connects. You make a joke. No one laughs, not because it's bad, but because they don't hear it. They nod and move on. You check your reflection in a glass door. You're still there. You haven't disappeared, but you feel like you have. You go to the store. The shelves are full. The cashier still scans your items, but she doesn't make eye contact. You say thank you, and she says you too, even though you didn't ask a question. You watch her lips move and wonder if she's still in there, or if something else is speaking through her now. It doesn't get better. You walk down streets you've known for years and feel like a stranger. You go to your favorite restaurant. The food tastes the same, but the warmth is gone. The waiter says all the right words, but with the tone of a voicemail that's been played too many times. You leave early. You stop going out altogether. You start writing things down, keeping a record. Not because you expect someone to read it. You just want to hold on to something real. You jot down the way the trees look at sunset, the crack in the pavement outside your building, the sound of your own voice when you read out loud, just to prove you still exist. You test people. You ask them questions they shouldn't be able to answer. Personal things. Do you remember the time we got lost in the city? What did I tell you the day my brother left? Some hesitate. Some say yes, but they get the details wrong. A friend says they remember something you never told them. You press further. They get defensive, then distant. Eventually, they stop answering. Not out of anger, just disinterest, like their script ran out of lines. You start thinking maybe the world did end. Not in fire, not in ice, but in spirit. Like something shut off behind the curtain. The engine died, but the wheels still turn. The show plays on, even though the actors have left, and you're still here. Awake in a dream that never resets. You try to leave town. You drive for hours. New places, new faces, but it's the same everywhere. People moving without momentum. Music playing without feeling. Eyes that don't meet yours. You stop in a diner. You eat alone. A man sits across from you. You ask where he's going. He says, back home. You ask where that is. He pauses for too long, then says, out west. You ask what he does for work. He says, you know? But you don't. You finish your meal in silence. At night, the stars look fake, like stickers on a ceiling. You can't prove they aren't real, but you can't shake the feeling they're just there to keep you calm. The moon hangs too still. The wind blows, but never hard enough to knock anything over. You visit a library. You read books at random. Poetry, science, old cookbooks. Some still stir something in you. You find one passage that talks about the weight of absence. You read it 5 times. You copy it by hand. For a moment, you feel grounded, but when you try to share it with someone, they nod without looking. That's nice, they say, and move on. You start talking to yourself, not out of madness, just company. You narrate your day. You ask questions, you answer them. You laugh when you remember something funny. You cry without warning. You stop hiding your feelings because there's no one left to hide them from. You think about the old world, not the cities or the politics, but the moments. A friend's hand on your shoulder, the sound of someone humming in the kitchen, the way your mother said your name. You don't know if those memories are real or just well written. You try to find meaning, not in the system, but in the quiet parts. You walk at dawn, you collect leaves, you listen to the hum of machines still running, even though no one maintains them. You find beauty in the strange persistence of it all, how things keep going, even when they shouldn't. You wonder if this is punishment, or maybe protection. Maybe something worse was coming, and this shell is what's left after the blast. Maybe you're the last one still dreaming while the rest found peace. Or maybe this is peace, and you just haven't accepted it. You stop trying to wake up. You stop looking for signs. Instead, you build your own. You write poems on the walls of abandoned buildings. You draw in chalk on sidewalks. You leave notes in library books, not to explain, just to mark that you were here. Some nights, you whisper to the sky, not prayers, just thoughts. Gratitude, maybe. Grief. Sometimes both. You don't expect answers, but it feels better than silence. Because even if no one's listening, you still are. And in a world where everything feels hollow, that might be enough to make it real.